Why do you go silent whenever he says something? You have to respond to what he's saying, Apollo.
Around your justification in the practical reason type justification.
Oh, okay. That is Fichte's perspective. So basically what he's getting at is this, and like I've explained this. So when it comes to the choice between realism and idealism for him, you can't really kind of affirm one or the other on purely theoretical or speculative grounds, because it'd be more like basically saying, look, I start with this axiom, you start with that axiom. There's no shared axiom or principle that we have or premise that we have that we can adjudicate between the two. So his idea is that the idealist and the realist differ as far as first principles. Because of that, there is no possible way that they can come to an agreement. Now, given that's the case, for someone like Fichte, the reason the idealist is because this person takes seriously their sense of moral vocation. The freedom that they experience and the duty that goes along with it, it resonates with them so deeply they can't help but be an idealist. Now, the realist for him, or we would call the dogmatist, is going to want to explain freedom away as sort of epiphenomenal, that this is just a Täuschung or a delusion or deception that's happening within the person. So his position is he's not really going to refute the person. He uses more of an ad hominem argument. He says the character of the person is so bad that the person does not have that sort of moral sense, and that's the reason why they don't believe what they do. But these types of ad hominem arguments actually did develop. You would see this in things like phenomenology, existentialism, or critical theory. I mean, the Marxist view of false consciousness is just an ad hominem argument. It's basically the reason why you believe what you do is because you're in a state of false consciousness.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you made like an argument similar to this. I don't know if you're like criticizing the risk argument, which is based on the ad hominem based critique, but in our conversations we had, when you're talking about like the comparison between the external world skeptic and like the external world realist, like for example you and me, for instance, you talked about the idea that these people are going to be people who are mentally insecure, or they're going to be kind of like a weak mentality. Really, they tend to be people of this set with this weak mental characteristic, and people like us, for example, are people with a strong mental characteristic. And you compared like the pros and cons are really the strengths of both individuals' mental characteristics, and he used that ethos, critique, or objection as this foundational block for justifying your worldview over the skeptic's worldview, or person's eye in the external world.
I would probably say, as far as how I would kind of adjudicate between the two, I do end up using that kind of Fichtean ad hominem argument, which is the reason why they believe what they do has to do more with their character. It doesn't have to do with the fact that they are somehow their first principle or my first principle. We can adjudicate between the two to find which one is correct. No, it's just basically going to sit there and say, as you said, yes, the external world and all these things, the reason they don't believe this is because they haven't risen to that level of that moral vocation. That's it. They don't really have that strong attitude towards the world, that the world is this sort of non-I that you kind of struggle against. Let me see if I can find it.
I find it interesting because like we both share like the same first principles in our epistemology. We both share the same ideologies regarding like what grounds our epistemology. Like we're both realists about the laws of logic, etc. We're both external world realists. But then it appears as if you're like more submissive towards the epistemological problems, whereas I want kind of like reconcile the foundations or the dogmas I have with the skeptic, even if the skeptic is being way too skeptical to the point where they're rejecting it, no matter how far I actually attempt to give an argument for that claim.
I have the article. I'm trying to find the exact section which is relevant. So hopefully it doesn't seem like I'm not paying attention now. Okay, here's actually the point.
By the way, is mine now?
No, I got it. So here's the idea. It basically states this here. Okay, so let's see the point. These may be, fuck, I need my glasses to read shit like that. It's so fucking small. Hold on.
I can read it. This is fine.
Okay, yeah, I gotta back up. says, these may be reconciled if the opposition of realism and idealism is balanced only for proof, each position having zero premises, and in balance for persons according to the degree of development. So this is basically, you can see this is a route how certain philosophical development went. This is basically phenomenology, existentialism, and idealism. This is how they go down the route. They basically have the idea that you don't believe this, or you are the way you are because your state of consciousness. That's basically it. That growth is more important than argument.
Are you like a Hegelian by any means? Because like I remember we were having this conversation. I'm pretty sure it was me or someone else. It was about Hegelian Hermeticism, and I'm pretty sure like we both disagree with Hermeticism insofar as like Hegel is going to want to propose the ideology that there's this circular codependence relation between God and nature and man, insofar as like it goes from God to man or nature, and it goes back to God, and it goes on in a circular fashion. Like, are you like a Hermeticist in that sense?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get this to grow.
Okay, hold on. About when you're
Okay,
talking
so this is
about
the article.
I was gonna say when you're talking about the idea that like idealism or idealist and realist has like different dogmas, I kind of disagree with that. I think like realists and idealists can like share the same dogmas, but like the extrapolated process that they use from these dogmas to their conclusions or whatever theories they have about metaphysics is different. And then what you're gonna have to do is kind of like go back to the dogmas and rethink the process through which we come to the conclusions, and we see if the process was in fact flawed or we kind of like missteps like one of the major relevant you could say steps to reaching that conclusion. I think that's what a lot of metaphysical conversations regarding these topics really boils down to, fundamentally speaking.
I know I kind of would agree with Victor's point here at some fundamental level, and I've seen this so often, that there's just going to be some axiom that we just disagree with. So if I, let's say, hold
You'd agree that like
proposition
most
C,
realists and idealists would be, go ahead for it.
I'm just saying, if I adhere to proposition C and I ground C and B and I ground B and A, and I say A is just axiomatic, and the other person believes in proposition F and he grounds F and E and D, and this is axiomatic for him, there's no point, there's no agreement. It's not possible. If I basically take A as axiomatic,
I think we should ground
B is
axioms. I don't think we can ground axioms inferentially. Well, it depends, right? But I think we should ground axioms where you like their indispensability. So I think, like for example, if someone says that realism is true because realism is an axiom, that's going to obviously be question begging, right? And I mean, I think there are certain obvious metrics that we use to determine whether something is truly axiomatic from whether it is not axiomatic. So if it appears to be the case that all of our conceptual practices or whatever epistemic policies carry out in conversations entails the usage of this axiom or this assumption, then I think that gives us good reason to believe it being axiomatic. But I believe that if this is not the case, if it is not the case that every single thing or every single conversations we carry out about these topics entails this assumption, I think that's good reason to believe it's not an axiom, and it's just the person trying to dishonestly define this view into being an axiom as a means of a weird jail-free card to kind of like escape the burden of actually going through the relevant steps of proving their position. And I see this in a lot of cases, really, and I think it is trolling, really. I don't think it's a
presuppositionalist. Okay, so this is the point. Okay, so the way to look at this in kind of more simple language is that when you are talking to a presuppositionalist and he's giving his version of the transcendental argument, he's saying if knowledge and experience, then God, knowledge and experience, therefore God. I just don't see how God, the way that the Christians understand it, is essential to knowledge and experience. The way that I would see what's necessary for that, being the Kantian that I am, is objects have to be extended in space, they have to have a temporal duration, and I have to apply certain logical categories. So this is what's necessary for knowledge or facts. I don't see the Christian God in it. I guess if you talk to someone like Darth Vader,
I think there's a weird equivocation, though.
Say that's the case. But I'm just saying they somehow intuitively.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying that I think Christian
don't.
presuppositionalists. I agree with you. I'm saying Christian presuppositionalists, they make this like this implicit dishonest equivocation between the reason as to why knowledge exists in the mind and the reason as to why knowledge exists in terms of process. So I think existentially speaking, knowledge cannot exist without God because God is necessary for all things to exist, whether mental or instrumental. However, yeah, go for?
Oh, Apollo, I'm just talking specifically if you're going to give a transcendental argument. So transcendental argument is that the structure is the skeptic denies proposition B. You get to, let's say, A, which the skeptic can't deny, and you show how B is necessary
Yes, I
for
know.
A. The whole
Mhm.
idea is the necessary conditions for something. So if I'm going to get knowledge and experience, I can say that there are certain necessary conditions, space, time, and thought, for example. I don't see how God is essential to that. Now, I've been working on kind of like a Neoplatonic argument that might get to the one as essential for that. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, we both use the same argument, I'm pretty certain.
No, it's a different
Except that
one.
mine is a bit the different one.
It's
Like, are you talking about the one which is based on
a different
unity, and if it
Neoplatonic.
is not unity,
Oh,
like how
it
is
is
it like?
like it is based on unity, but rather than actually looking at something outside like the tree and seeing that as a unity to getting some kind of metaphysical explanation for that, it starts from more of a Kantian route. So it starts from the Kantian route that I apply the category of unity to experience. It's more subjective. And then, like, for example, the 12 categories, one is unity, like the red cup in front of me, it's a unified object. I apply unity along with substance and reality as well. Then you get to the synthetic unity of a perception, that it's a unified consciousness, which is necessary for these categories. The step after that is you want to somehow say, because the synthetic unity of a perception is more like an accidental unity than an essential one, how the one is necessary for our unified consciousness and the fact that we apply unities towards categories. So it's kind of what the Christians are doing, except I don't really see them kind of arguing for God. I can somehow see how the one is necessary for any act of knowledge, because knowledge will imply that sort of
Oh,
unity.
so you're basically making the
Yeah.
argument that like the one is like an indispensable metaphysical explanation for all the 12 transcendental categories we as agents have, right?
Yeah, for the unity
It's a
that
necessary
we
Mhm.
yeah. So both think of like unity in the Kantian sense that it's both a unity as far as the
Mhm.
actual category you're applying to objects, and also at the same time you have a unified consciousness. That's going to require an explanation. You're going to get to, let's just say, a something like the one, which explains the unity of those two. So rather than actually getting to the tree outside as a unified object to the one explaining the unity of anything in the world, it's starting from your consciousness. So that's the difference. It starts
Yeah.
from the fact that and goes from that route. That's the one I've been thinking of.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what do you think about
Yeah, I think the argument is intuitively strong. I haven't seen like the formal structure, but I think I think it's going to be interesting to see how the atheist is going to object in this quality of the categories being dependent on like some being like the one. Like Moose, what would your response be to this, considering you're like an atheist?
Wouldn't
Oh,
you
I'm
have
not
to
an
be a
atheist.
Kantian to even care?
What you're saying, Moose?
Like, it seems like you'd have to be a Kantian to even care how to like uphold the categories, right?
Well,
Not necessarily. I think for example, like we can like when you're saying like a Kantian or like you have to be like a transcendental idealist.
it does work.
Yeah, no,
Hopefully,
sorry.
hopefully I'm not interrupted. It does work for more of, okay, so the whole goal is this one is more subjective than objective, meaning instead of the standard Neoplatonic argument, which you look at something outside like the tree, and you say that objectively it's a unity, it's not just a formless heap or arbitrary aggregate, and because of that, there has to be something that explains its unity, a concurrent cause that unites it together, and can have a infinite regress of an essentially ordered causal series. So you have to get to something like one, which is a simple. Yeah, this one is actually reversing it and saying that no, the unity is more like a Kantian category that you apply to it. I'm not really deontologist, though I do agree with some aspects of Kant. But
The thing is, though, like my version of the Neoplatonic argument doesn't depend on the existence of an external world, because, like, for example, I've debated someone already on this, and they were like asking me to demonstrate there being an external world. I'm like, it's irrelevant, right? So long as we grant that consciousness exists, it's going to be entailed that there has to be a being behind all of this. Like, even if like you're a solipsist, you believe that only I exist, right? The I right there is going to have certain properties, right? There's obviously a multiplicity of mental properties which composes our consciousness, and these things are indubitable. And I say that like that's going to entail like something behind all of this to explain this multiplicity, given that multiplicity cannot exist by itself. So I'm saying that like my argument is going to like I don't think the standard Neoplatonic argument, or at least my argument, depends on like an external world really. But to respond to like what Moose was saying, I don't think you have to be like a transcendental idealist to grant the categories, right? You can grant like there being certain indispensable properties for consciousness without granting things like the Copernican revolution or the idea that our synthetic a priori are like necessary.
No, okay, so what you would have to have for those two things is something kind of just the fact that you apply the category of unity to objects. We have a red cup. It's in front of me. So in a Kantian way, I apply the category of unity. This cup is red. It's a unified object. I also apply the category of substance. It means it persists throughout time. I also apply the category of reality. It means a predicate that affirms the subject. It's red. The cup is red. You could go, it's also the category of actuality as well, as far as it basically having both kind of the formal and material conditions for existence. For it to be. Now, that being the case, but it's the category of unity that's important. So I apply the category of unity to it. I also have the synthetic unity of a perception, which is a unified consciousness that's going to be explained. So the question is, would you deny that we understand things in this world as unified objects, and that do we have a unified consciousness?
Yeah, I wouldn't deny that, obviously, because like we hold the same view on like Neoplatonism and so on. But I was like more curious as far as like Moose's response, given that he objects Neoplatonism and he doesn't think it's like a strong view.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with like unified objects. I just don't know how that leads into a unified consciousness. Like, I don't see the connection.
No, we're not saying that it leads into unified consciousness. We're saying like it's explained by something simple, like divinely simple in nature, which is not going to be a unity or unified in essence.
Oh no, Paul. I am going from the unified object to the synthetic unity of a perception, to a unified consciousness, to then an actual explanation for both of those. That's it. So I am kind of agreeing with what Kant would call the transcendental unity of a perception, which would basically mean within any mental representation, there's an I think. There's a unified consciousness that is taking all these representations together. So yes, I would adhere to what's called the synthetic unity of a perception.
Yeah, but like, I mean, Moose, you're denying that unified consciousness entails like divine simple, correct?
Well, I didn't even get there yet. I just don't know what it means. If he says to have unified consciousness is just to be able to use like the word I as a prefix, then yeah, I'd probably agree that exists.
Yeah, that's it. It's just that Kantian experience where he's saying that I think. So within the fact that you're having these kind of successive representations, kind of understanding space, time, unified way, there's a unified consciousness that does this. That's basically all that's saying.
Yeah.
So there's a unified consciousness that, holds all these representations together.
Yeah, I probably have no problem agreeing with that. That sounds about right.
Okay, so your issue might be the, again, Neoplatonic leap as to the point that, what Plotinus would call these accidental unities, which would basically mean, the unified object and the unified consciousness, meaning they have parts, to some sort of essential unity which is necessary for that.
Yeah, that seems to be where I'd lose track of it.
Then it would seem that basically all these things kind of just arrange in a sort of arbitrary way, and I think that that might be the problem there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like to make the arguments about like I don't like to base the Neoplatonic argument on like arbitrary compositions in comparison or in contrast with designed composition or a composition which seems to have some sort of like unity. I don't like to use that because then someone can like be like a mere logical nihilist really and the argument falls apart. So I like to use it, I like to equivocate the word parts with causal conditions or things which are necessary for some composite to exist insofar as causal relation between the composite and the parts which makes up the composite.
But what's your thoughts on kind of Fichte's argument against arguments, Apollo?
You talking to me?
Yeah, the two that he references in the article, the two that I explained. The one basically in which people are going to bottom out at axioms, that there's going to be no prior axiom that the two people can actually come to agreement with, and also consciousness itself is not something that can be demonstrated from any other principles besides consciousness. So to argue consciousness from consciousness would be question begging. You just have to basically start from the certainty of consciousness. Can't argue consciousness. I just know it. That's it.
I think the argument is, as I've said before, it's intuitively strong, but like you already know like my view on like intuitions and so on. Like I'm not the type of person who just likes to like make this intuition appeal and be like, there you go. The problem there is reconciled. I like to like make this kind of like more objective arguments or this less intuition based arguments. I like to use like as you've said before, like a more standardized version of the Neoplatonic arguments and what like Fesser, for example, would try to produce it in his version of Plotinus's works. I think that is going to be something which pushes the idea in a more stronger and objective way for the atheist to have less chance of basically denying the argument without sounding stupid, right?
I probably might make
kind
that
of just-
Fichte
yeah.
development to the Neoplatonic one, just the one. It's just something that you are aware of in your consciousness. Some people aren't, some people
I
are.
think like your types of justification, the justification you use to justify beliefs and so on, I think it is maybe a bit more dimensional than mine insofar as it is not just logos based. You kind of like mixing a bit of ethos to it to add a bit more flavor to the argument you're presenting. But I think like the ethos part is just going to be something which is rhetorically conducive. Really, it's going to be helpful towards the rhetorical nature of your arguments, but not really the substantive nature of the arguments. And I usually focus on the substance, right?
Well, okay, so what would be your view on something like this as a support for that Neoplatonic idea of how the one grounds everything? This spiritual exercise in Plotinus, the deictic method, basically says the deictic exercise analyzed on the basis of two texts, the Enneads, Tractate 6, 5, 12, and the Ennead, Tractate 5, 5, 7, and 10, is designed to show the disciple the one as part of normal everyday consciousness, which is the ground of everything that exists and makes it knowable. So there's kind of a spiritual practice in which the person actually does not just just not infer to, let's just say this essential unity explains everything, but they actually, he's kind of glimpsed it. He understands it.
Like you're saying, the actions that they partake in implies that they believe in this, at least implicitly or subconsciously.
The person has had some sort of intuitive realization as far as this one. This is the point of this stuff. Through this mystic exercise, they just get that. That's the
Would you
idea.
say the intuitive realization are going to be things which are logically necessary insofar as they are true in virtue of all logical in virtue of all possibilities in the logical space, or are you just saying that it is true insofar as like it is just intuitively true, but it's not necessarily if we're speaking from like a logical modal scope?
Okay, so logically speaking, you could argue how, again, the consciousness and both objects as unities are accidental unities and an essential unity is necessary. But that's more kind of an inferential reasoning that basically anything that's an accidental unity, or let's just say it has parts, is going to require something simple to ultimately explain it. That's fine. But what this one is saying that there is this kind of deictic method or this spiritual exercise of Plotinus in which he actually apprehended it. It's more down the route I was saying for Fichte. It's just this act of in your consciousness, you grasp this. It's more of like a mystical insight.
Is it kind of like the method that Plotinus talked about in his Aeneas, whereas he basically tried to make I think this is what like his student wrote about really, because like the whole idea is kind of like if we try to enact this cognitive practice, whereas we eliminate all concepts, and through the elimination of all concepts we come to the ineffable one. And I think this is what his student talked about when they were like talking about the mystical experiences Plotinus had, right, on 4 occasions.
Yeah. Well, again, yeah. So for him, ultimately, mystical insight's the end all be all. I mean, argument might just help clarify that. But yeah, I mean, again, then it goes back to what I was saying, that kind of Fichte-ian sort of way he's presenting it, which is that this has to be kind of appropriated in an act of self-consciousness. Can't be basically argued, as he's saying here, is this arguments will not help the ignorant unconvinced because this consciousness cannot be demonstrated to anyone. Each person must freely create it in himself. Against Descartes, Fichte here anticipates Kierkegaard in saying that conscious existence is more certain than any proof.
Shut up.
The point is, there you go. The point is well taken and very modern. It shows why ad rem arguments about self-awareness and critical forms of consciousness has increasingly become to regarded as question-begging, ineffectual, and even comical, and hence why we've seen the rise of ad hominem arguments in existential philosophy, phenomenology, and critical theory.
Yeah, I think like yeah, so the section of the argument where he talked about the accidental unities requiring some essentially simple being to explain all accidental unities. That is something I'm gonna grant without a doubt. It's just that like the other part is kind of like, I wouldn't say this, how should I put it, like I wouldn't say something which is argumentatively solid or as solid as in comparison to the other section. I think it's going to be built on, as you've said before, like the argument cannot be applied to the ignorant people. And I'm trying to basically present an argument which can be applied to the ignorant person insofar as even the ignorant can basically kind of like come to the self-realization of this metaphysically simple being, even if they're not able to realize certain things which are obvious. Right?
Yeah, I kind of have more of the route where ultimately I'm just going to view this person as not having a certain stage of consciousness, and rather than arguing it, they're going to have to grow. That's basically it. Look, I have no issue with that. That's my view. I kind of have this. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
so this Fichtean, it's just, I'll just dismiss you. Yeah, you're just not at that level of consciousness yet. Fine. Which actually is kind of how philosophy did develop, as I said, from Fichte onwards. I mean, you would have a lot that is really not as argumentative driven. For example, phenomenology isn't. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm going to analyze my states of consciousness. That's basically it. And actually,
Even
that's why I wanted to
Kant
bring up
works.
earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so what is your thoughts on that, like this view? And I wanted to go on that difference between Husserl and humor. So the way that when I was reading that article, this is how I understood it. So let's say hypothetically, I'm locked in my room, I have my sound machine on, and I have the windows closed, and I make the statement, it's raining outside. Now, the way that I understood the difference between the two, for Husserl, it's more of, let's say, givenness or fulfillment, meaning once I shut the sound machine off and I hear the rain, once I open the blinds and I see the rain, and once I go outside and I feel the rain, that meaning intention act of it's raining, which is a meaningful statement, is being fulfilled. So things are presenting itself to my consciousness. When I read that, it said humor, on the other hand, more is like a phenomenology of pushiness, which is more the psychological state of the person. So it could be that one person for humor has more reason to believe just from the sound than the other person from the sound, the texture, and the sight, because it's more about your subjective state. And that's what that article is saying, why this guy thought Husserl's was better than humor's, because of the fact that it's more about what's presenting itself to your consciousness as opposed to what your psychological state is, how much it seems to you, seeming. Yeah.
It's kind of like I mean, I think like this is in line with like some forms of like abductivism. Like you're gonna have to like use these like Siemens as some, like we have like the phenomenon that's been experienced, and we try to like derive the best explanation for the phenomenon. Now, when I say that one of the explanatory virtues that makes it the case that one idea has more explanatory weight in comparison to the other is gonna be the fact that the Siemens corresponds with it insofar as this is what Siemens is kind of like representing or given to me. Like it's basically, this is what is presenting to my consciousness. This is what is being presented to my consciousness, right? As you might call it.
Actually,
Okay,
let me see if I can.
well,
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but
mhm,
I just want to make this point because you might find this interesting. When you brought up abductive, there
mhm.
actually is an interesting article which was talking about phenomenology and argumentation, but the form they said for phenomenology would be more abductive arguments, which is I have all
Yeah, of
this
course.
data that's presenting itself to my consciousness, and I'm trying to reason what's the best explanation for that data. Let me see if I can find the article real quickly.
Yeah, that would be pretty great if you find the article. Let's review in like brute contingency. Do you think it is possible for there to be some contingent entity which is unexplainable or unexplained?
It really doesn't resonate with my consciousness very well at all. I mean, like,
Non-standard, do you think book contingencies are possible?
the way that I would look at it is, I mean, it's a question of, I was reading this right for Spinoza once. There's two versions of the PSR he has, which is ex nihilo nihil fit, out of nothing comes nothing. And there has to be some reason why there are amount of substances that there are, not one more, not one less. And that's why I think something like the Neoplatonic one suffices, because if you had some sort of priority pluralism, then you have a large amount of substances, and let's not infinite, but very, very large. Why was there that number? Why wasn't there one more? Why wasn't there one less? It just seems, when you get to that level of this, just why for it, it just really boggles the mind, and it just seems absurd. And yeah, that's something which, just for me, there is, and all I could say as far as phenomenologically speaking, there's kind of an inherent repulsion to that, just seems like this is bizarre. I mean, this doesn't make sense. And I kind of trust, as I said, I would trust my kind of rational intuitions when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I love using those as an explanation. I feel like they work so well.
Anyways, not standard.
Okay, here it is, Apollo. It is, yeah. Phenomenology,
Not
abduction,
standard.
and
Do you
argument.
believe Brook contingencies are possible or impossible?
Are you talking to me?
No, Apollo.
I think they're impossible.
Why is
Retard
that?
view.
Excuse me?
Why is that? Why is that the case that they're impossible? What makes them a non-being?
Yeah, sure. So if it is the case that we have some being X, it's either going to be divinely simple or it's going to be something which possesses multiplicity. If it possesses multiplicity, that means it's actually explained and it's not brute in nature. If it is divinely simple, that means it's ontologically independent. And I believe an entailment of something being ontologically independent is it being necessary. So on both terms of the dichotomy, it entails the falsehood of a brutally contingent being.
Yeah, that is true. And if they just explain everything is divinely simple, that is in reality, we cannot distinguish reality.
Yeah. But I mean, Moose disagrees with this dichotomy. So like, I mean, which part of the dichotomy would you disagree with, Moose?
I mean, I disagree with basically everything you just said. Like the part that if something has multiplicity, that therefore it has an explanation. Like it's a
Do you
thing is not
think the
explained by its
thing?
parts.
Wait, do you think?
Like,
Okay, so let's say we talk about the tree, for example. The tree is composed of atoms and all of these things, which basically forms the tree itself. Do you think the tree itself, the physical form of the tree, can exist independently of these atomic structures?
independently of, no, but those things don't explain the existence of the whole. Is kind of where I'm
Yeah.
getting at.
Oh,
If
yeah,
they
Apollo.
cannot wait, hold on. If they cannot wait, hold on. If they cannot exist independently of the parts, then that means the parts act as something which it depends on for its own existence. That's going to be a reason-based explanation. That's
That's not at
something which
all.
corresponds with the Louisiana Conniff explanation. So that means it will have to be caused, even under your own assumption or agreement.
But then you're just giving me an insufficient answer. Like if I'm saying like, why did this tree come into existence? And you're telling me, oh, well, because the things that made it exist. You're not explaining why the
Well,
tree came into existence.
well, what and the tree is composed of this manifestations, these atoms, right? And you grant that these things cannot, or sorry, the tree, which is the composite object, the mere logical composite, cannot exist without these things which composes the tree existing. So if that was to be the case, then there's going to imply, or that's not even just implied, it entails a dependency relation between the composite and the parts. Now, what I'm not understanding is how are you not getting the conclusion that
Because you're not
this
answering the
is an
question.
implication of the cause, right?
Yeah,
Like if
hold
I
on.
say it, oh yeah,
Just
Nyklot, you
real
got it.
I don't want to cut people off because I'm leaving to go eat. But yeah, Paulo, real quickly, if you're really wanting to know phenomenology and argument, look at that section I just gave you. That explains the method very well from the article. He's talking about Sartre's view of annihilation and consciousness. And the idea is naturalism can't explain it. So he's saying, look, here's this phenomenological data I have. And because of that, I have to now have a metaphysics that can account for it. So the idea is you're having all these experiences. And this is why, yes, for phenomenology, primarily abduction would be the method. So yeah, sorry to cut people off. I do have to go. So everyone have a good day. Night, actually.
You too, man.
Okay, have a good day, bro. Yeah, what were you saying, Moose?
That you're not giving me like an actual explanation. Like I'm not saying a thing is explained in its parts because that's not what we're looking for, right? So if I say a tree popped out of nowhere, you can't tell me the explanation for that tree now existing is because it has parts, right? That's not the answer we're looking for.
Second, so when you say pops out of nowhere, you're saying that it like nothing causes the tree into existence.
Right? Yeah.
But by nothing, you take nothing to be an absence of all properties, right?
An absence of like a pre-existing reason.
Yeah, so a pre-existing reason, so it's going to be a lack of reason, right? So is this lack of reason something which is nothing?
It would, yeah, I guess so. That's what would
So
make it
nothing
brute.
lacks all things, right? Nothing is nothing insofar as there's no single thing which makes up nothing because it is the absence of all things, correct?
I mean, I know what nothing is. Yeah.
Okay, so then you're going to say that after this is the definition, and nothing causes something. Do you not realize that an embedded nature into causation is causal power, right? If something does not have the causal power to cause something, then it cannot cause it analytically speaking. It's just something which is analytically true.
Yeah, causal power isn't
Nothing
part of
lacks
the
all
argument.
properties. So like, so wait, if
This
nothing
argument
lacks
has
all
nothing to do with causal power.
no, you're saying nothing causes the tree to exist,
Well,
or
no, I'm
nothing
saying
to
there's no
cause something
reason for
that's a
its
causal
immediate.
power.
There's nothing in terms of an immediate reason for its existence. Not that there was nothing pre-existing.
Wait. If something causes, okay, the tree is caused. An inherent reason for why this caused is that there is some causal power which gives it the capability of being caused. If there's no causal power to begin with, it cannot be caused, because what basically instantiates something being caused is there being the capability of it being caused, which is what causal power is.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. Like, okay, if you want to use a real example, then use like a quantum phenomena. There are conditions that allow for the causation to occur, but there's no reason the event occurred. That's what we're talking about, right?
I think the conditions. What's the distinguishing feature between the condition and the reason?
The
If
conditions say
reasoning,
this can
yeah.
occur, right? Like there's a realm of possibility in which the event may occur, but the reason for its occurrence is okay, this happened, therefore a conclusion came, right? There was a cause for this, and now there's an effect. And there's no pointing out a cause.
Wait, when you talk about like cause, right? You're already saying that cause insofar as it temporally precedes the consequence or the thing which is being caused.
Yeah, directly.
Well, my view just
Not with
grants that.
conditionals.
Yeah, you understand that my view just grants that God does not temporally precede the universe, right? So that's going to be fine under my view. It's not going to be the case that he temporally precedes the universe. It's going to be the case that he causes the universe insofar as there is this sort of like dependence relation, which is not based entirely on temporality. Like this is where
What
atemporal
are we talking about with
causation
God?
comes into play.
Where did you get God from?
Because the whole idea is kind of like, okay, you're saying that is it possible? I mean, the when I brought up Brew contingency question, it's mainly a question which is directed towards your reason for not believing that God exists or there being a necessary being that exists, right? And that's kind of like the gist of what I'm saying right now. But if you want to like make the conversation more strictly focused on just the brute contingency part without the elimination or without the up of God, that's fine with you, right? It's fine with
Well,
me.
the God thing is an extension of like the whole PSR argument for the argument from
Mhm.
contingency. If you want to extend that, we can. But I was mostly talking about here's
But
why
the whole
brute
idea, but
contingency.
you understand that my view doesn't say that like there cannot be. I'm not saying it is impossible for there to be something that's caused without it temporally, without something which temporally precedes it. That's not my view, right? My view is
Yeah, I
that
know.
it is impossible for something to be caused without a cause, right? And under my view, causes aren't going to be confined to the realm of temporal precedence. It is going to be something which is either temporally preceding the consequent, or it ontologically precedes the consequence.
Yeah, that's
That's
fine.
actually a famous argument. If something is implicated, but there's nothing to implicate it, that's a contradiction.
What?
Yeah, and I mean, like, of course, yeah, and I think like it moves like the issue with like his denial of or his acceptance of brute contingencies. He assumes this controversial and the actual wrong assumption of causation being confined to temporality. When we're talking about
Wait,
something
more.
being brutally contingent, we're talking. Wait, hold on. We're talking about like something that is contingent, which has no causal explanation. If it is not
Mm-hmm.
necessary for a causal explanation to be something which temporally precedes that which is being explained or that which is being caused, and that means there's no reason for us to say, well, brute contingency is true in virtue of a lack of temporally preceding causal explanation, because that would not be sufficient to prove brute contingency, because you have not shown as to why something can exist without the existence of both a temporally preceding explanation and a ontologically preceding explanation.
Okay, but my goal
Exactly.
isn't to show
But
that they
most are
necessarily
you
exist. What?
most are you a diatheist?
No.
How about you, Papalo?
I don't think he is either.
Why is he hesitant?
I'm not a Dalitist.
His internet's just like 5 minutes behind.
Oh,
No, I heard what he said the very moment he said it.
Oh, you're just thinking? Okay.
No,
it
no,
was.
it's because I'm like pressing the button and like, yeah, that's
Oh,
what were you
okay.
saying?
Well, that's unfortunate because I'm the seems that I'm the only diatheist here.
It's
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
retarded.
that's fine. I mean,
Well,
wait, so
I'm
are you
messing
saying
with
you're a
you.
Dalitist?
I'm not a diatheist. I'm messing with
Oh.
you.
Oh,
I
okay,
did
okay.
I did have a diatheist phase though.
I have like three like major reasons for rejecting Dalitism. One is because of
What
the modal
do you
equivalence.
can you write them down though? The three major.
Yeah, I can write them down later.
It's on recording.
I'm not typing right now. But like I was saying, that like one is going to be the modal ambivalence of a modalities, meaning that their modal scope seems to be confused. If the laws of logic does not ground the impossibility of something, or what makes something impossible, then what actually is going to be the grounding for such, right? And it appears as if there's not going to be any explicit modal relata to ground this under the modalities framework. The second reason is something in virtue of like the linguistic policies and or certain semantic engagements we have, which entails that the laws of logic are true. The third reason is just going to be, which was the third reason again? Oh yeah, the principle of explosion, right? And I think
Explosion,
like,
yeah, I was about to say.
yeah,
But
yeah.
thing
So
is,
those are
they
the
would
three
deny
reasons.
that. They would just say, yeah, there are contradictions that are impossible, but that doesn't mean every contradiction is not in potency. And they would defend that by virtue of showing you paradoxes.
Yeah, I think the paradoxes are based on like certain meaningless statements, and I believe that if
Yeah,
they're,
yeah,
if
they're
they're going to make the
only.
claim, if they're going to make the claim that like there's some contradictions which are impossible, I'll just ask them the question, which is, what about those specific contradictions which makes them impossible? And if
Yeah,
they
yeah,
appeal to the
exactly,
laws of
exactly. It
logic, then
comes
they're
up
going to
as
get fucked. And if they
exactly.
cannot
It
give
comes
an
up.
explanation, then they're going to also be,
Yeah,
they're going to get
exactly.
fucked
That
also.
that's one discussion I had with somebody. I said like, you have this epistemic principle, which is everything is in potency until something negates its own existence. Therefore, it's a
Yeah.
non-being. But you say some things are non-beings and the others are in potency. Why? And you just appeal to paradoxes.
Yeah, the paradoxes don't work. I mean, like the
Yeah,
funny thing
exactly.
is
They
like
don't work. It's just
I think out all the Dality's arguments, and like none of them actually work.
they're
So like
just paradoxes. Yeah, it's
I'm not worried when,
easy.
I'm really not worried when someone comes to me and asks me to prove the laws of logic, cause like it's something easy for me to actually do, right? I always think out like all the reductives and so on. Like I have those locked really, but like I was gonna say like Moose was gonna say something, and I think we like cut him off. Like when I was talking about like the brew contingency stuff and like the whether causation is confined to temporal causation or whatever. Like, what were you saying, Moose? Like,
I was
what
gonna
point?
say you talk a lot about like the idea that something is not metaphysically contradicted, then the scope would allow for it to be possible. So to say it's impossible, yet to not find any contradiction within the scope, but I mean it's possible, right?
Yeah, I think there's a contradiction in something being really contingent. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the scope? Or I mean, what's the contradiction? Then?
Logical modoscope. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the contradiction? What law of logic?
It contradicts. So first you have to start off from the lofix for the middle, and then from there on we just go. It's pretty simple. Something has to either be simple or non-simple, which is something which is composed of multiplicity. If it is simple, entails necessity. If it is not simple, it is entailed from that specific fact. It is it is contingent. Sorry, oh, my bad. So that means to say that something is simple but brutally contingent is to say that something is both necessary, which is entailed from it being simple, and
How is that an Italian?
contingent, which is a contradiction.
Where are you
Yeah,
getting
sure,
necessary
because
from simple? Yeah.
yeah, so because if something is if something is simple, that means there's no causal conditions for that thing to exist. If there's no causal conditions, then that means there's nothing which restricts its essence. It is metaphysically unrestricted. If something was to exist in some possible worlds in virtue of all possible worlds, then that means it is going to be something which is metaphysically restricted insofar as the state of affairs, which grounds the identity of these individual possible worlds, is what explains the reason as to why it does not exist in some and contrast with the other.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that ending point, but I still don't understand. I don't think you like something being simple doesn't mean necessarily that it's unrestricted. I don't know where that comes from.
The reason that's why it entails it being unrestricted is because of the fact that it has nothing which is a condition as a virtue of it being not causally
Right, there's
conditioned
no
by anything.
accidental properties, right?
There's no accidental properties now.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree there. So therefore, you're saying it's
Wait, even if something which is okay, the thing is this, right? I think something can have accidental properties but not be causally conditioned upon those properties because these properties aren't something which is indispensable for its existence, right? It can exist independently of these properties. Like for example, if I was to lose like one atomic particle, I'm gonna still exist, right? The me that you know is gonna still exist. That's just something which is accidental. That specific atomic particle is accidental. What is indispensable for my physical manifestation is going to be the conglomerate of all the atomic particles for the me, for the complete Apollo to exist, right?
Yeah, so that's why we would say that if something has like something like a accidental property such as that atomic particle, it must therefore be contingent because there could exist a reality in which it does or does not have that particle.
But the identity itself or the existence itself is not identical to this one atomic particle. It is the
Yeah,
atomic
sure.
particle we're talking about does not affect the existence of things. So, if, for example,
It affects its scope.
no, it doesn't, because if it is a case, let's look at me, for example. In some world, I can get a cut. When I get a cut, obviously, there's going to be some atomic change. There's some change within like the skin cells and whatever. That change isn't going to affect that in that world, whereas I experienced this unfortunate event, that me still exists. I still exist in that world, whereas these atomic particles, I lose a amount of atomic particles. So that's going to mean that simply saying that me losing a certain amount of atomic particles is going to be unrelated to the thesis, which is that I would still exist in that world, implying that that would not affect the scope itself.
Well, it's not
I'll
about
not be
existence,
completely
non-existence. It's
unrelevant.
about being a different entity, right? So because you have a set of particles that can be changed, even if they don't alter your essence, it's still making you a different entity in
How
one
do you
world versus
how do you ground
another.
identity?
How do I ground identity?
Yeah.
If we're talking fundamentally, it'd have to be like a composite of something. Predicates, probably?
Okay, so that's gonna be vague, because like I'm gonna do this. Okay, so if you get a cut on your skin right now, are you a different person?
No.
Okay, so that means this thing doesn't affect the identity of you. It doesn't
Yeah.
affect your existence. You still exist. You're still the same person. So even if
Mm-hmm.
you're in the world, even if in some world where you were to get a cut on your skin right now, again, you still exist. You're still the same person in that world. So to make the claim that this is related to an identity or existence related topic or discourse is going to be contradicting your idea, which is that even if you're to experience this cut, you're still the same person and you still exist.
Yeah, you're still the same person, but that's to say that you could be physically different in another world, right? So you could be made
But
up of a
physical
different
difference is not the
composition
same as
such that your
identity
identity.
difference, right?
Well, I think when we're talking about being contingent versus necessary, you have to be identical one-to-one to be necessary, right? Can you change and be necessary?
Why do you think that it is entailed from something being necessary,
Well, that's
that
my
it is
idea.
not
So,
something we can change?
well, my idea of saying like this exists in all possible worlds to say that thing is unchanging no matter what, such that if you lose
Why?
one particle, that thing is a changing entity.
Wait, why is that the case?
Well, this is my perception of it. What do you mean? Like, is there? You want me to
Like,
provide a
why is your
justification for why
perception
I
on this
think
right?
that's?
Like, you said to me, hold on, you said to me, I'm gonna just like run you
Mm-hmm.
down like the sets of like claims you made. So you
Go
say
for it.
that you believe that something being necessary, right? It implies
Mm-hmm.
that something's not changing. Now I ask you,
Yeah.
well, why is this the case? And you said an implication from me saying something exists in all possible worlds is that something remains unchanged in all of these possible worlds, which is kind of like reiterating the claim that you made prior, which I'm questioning. So then I asked you, okay, what is the basis for this claim? And then you said it's just perception, but I mean, this is just going to be an insufficient response and expecting something more quite.
Well, I don't know. It's just the way I'm looking at it. Like, I don't have like a fucking argument to give you.
No,
So,
it's
like, if
because
I
you're
say
saying that it
something,
is necessary. So like you're going to say that it's logically
right?
necessary or something?
Um, so the way I've always thought about it is like to say that something exists in every possible world is to say that this thing is unchanging, because if it were to change, it wouldn't be the same. That's the way I look at it, right?
Wait,
So, like
so
God, for
pause.
instance,
Like, it's
what?
this cause like, okay, so this is really answering the question. Like, when you're gonna say this something is necessary, again, you're gonna use like a modal terminology, and like I'm trying to like cash out the modal system you're going under, and then like you're not really giving me the modal scope. You're just saying that, well, you're going on this different tangent. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I'm
Okay,
kind of like perplexed on what you're really saying here.
you're perplexing, huh? Okay.
Well,
How
no,
about I
it's
give you
just
an example?
I don't think it's like a bad thing. Like what Apollo's saying. It's like, what are you using when you say like necessary? Like, is it like logically
Existing in all possible.
necessary?
Oh,
Is
you know,
it
like
like
Is that my
what's
boy
physically
Moxie?
necessary?
What's up, bro?
I've always taken
What's up?
metaphysical to be
What's
the
up?
general thing. I don't. It could be logical, metaphysical. I haven't like chosen a
But
scope.
you
It's
but
one
wait,
of
like,
those
you
two.
understand, like, if you're gonna say logically necessary, you're gonna have to present a logical contradiction if this claim was to be denied. If it is metaphysically necessary, you're gonna have to cash out the metaphysical principles, give an argument for these metaphysical principles not being
Yeah, that's
arbitrary,
not
and then
what. Yeah, I don't feel
explain
like
to what
doing
is
that.
metaphysically contradicting.
That's not even what
Yeah,
we're talking
but
about. I'm just saying,
Well,
given this, what entails from that? I don't need to fucking substantiate why it's necessary. That's
well, if you're gonna
right.
say that it is necessary, but then you're gonna tell me that, hey, it is necessary, but you're not speaking in terms of like some logical or metaphysical scope, then you saying the word necessary is just the same as me saying the word blah blah. It just doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I don't know what you're
I
talking
don't know why you're trying to like pull a T jump on me right now and make it look stupid. Okay, we can have a conversation. So what I'm saying is, given
about.
an
Oh no, I'm not
entity,
trying
like
to make it
so,
look
say
stupid. I'm
God.
just saying I don't really know what you mean.
Yeah, but obviously, when I say necessary, you have an idea of what I'm talking about, right? It doesn't mean nothing. You understand generally what I'm referencing, even if you don't know exactly what it is. It's like, given
Well,
an entity,
go
this
ahead.
entity exists in all possible worlds. What does it mean for that
Uh-huh.
entity to be different in one of the possible worlds? I would say, like, let's say with your example, if they have one atom
Mm-hmm.
versus no atoms, although I
Mm-hmm.
don't think an atom necessarily constitutes like an identity, it would still be different one-to-one, such that to say an entity appeared with an atom versus without wouldn't be able to make it
Well, wait, so you're
necessary.
saying it is not necessary for an atom to constitute identity, but it is necessary that if it is a case that it loses one atom, it will be different, meaning that it is a
Yeah.
case that it loses identity. That's a contradiction.
Well, I'm just saying identity as in like identity is like a
Wait.
as like a predicate generally. It's like although it may not differentiate like the mental state of the being, it differentiates from its like physical properties.
I'm
If
not
that
even
makes
talking about
sense.
mental state. The being can be unconscious for all I fucking care,
Like
right?
when I
I'm
talk
just
about
saying
like
that, like,
self-identity, I generally reference a mental state because that's generally what I look at.
okay,
But if you're talking about
mhm.
like physical appearance, whatever, then sure, one atom
Okay,
changes
okay, look at
that.
this. Look at this. So Moose, like even when I ask these questions, I don't even think I needed to ask you like these questions, like why is this a kid? Like I could go ahead and just like contradict or debunk what you're saying, cause like you understand like, the modal necessitation principle, right? Like for example, given that if we have some necessary being P, right, and like P necessarily causes Q, like it's within the disposition or nature of P to cause Q. Q as a result would also be necessary, right?
No, because Oppie doesn't agree with that. He believes in some sort of randomization, right?
I don't care about Alpi. I care about you. I'm
Well, I
asking you
care.
what's your
Yeah, I
response to
understand that. Well, I'd have to disagree because I'm just gonna meat ride what the big philosophers say, obviously.
That's just going to be an authoritarian appeal, but I mean, I'm
Yeah, of
expecting like
course.
something
What else am I
not
gonna do,
fallacious.
right? So, like,
Why
generally
don't
speaking,
give an
I'd say,
argument yourself instead of just saying, well, this dumbass philosopher who is like an agnostic atheist disagrees with that.
well, generally speaking, if someone smarter than me on the topic speaks about the subject, I should probably take what they say for granted, unless I know
Well,
something
no,
otherwise
because
that they
you
don't.
agree that philosophy is a subject which has so many different fucking relevance to the point.
Yeah,
It's
of
not really
course,
like
but I don't think I
it's
know
like
enough about
if
it.
it is so like listen, look, I think like this authority appeal would apply to like a scientific discourse, not like something which is metaphysical or philosophical, given like it is so controversial, like it is so much more controversial than scientific discourses, and that discrepancy and controversies regarding these two types of discourses is what makes these authority appeals so much less convincing in nature and so much less substantive from an argumentative perspective.
Yeah, sure, argumentatively. I'm just saying I'm taking this view
Mm-hmm.
because of this person. Like, I'm not using them as justification for the view being correct. I'm just saying that was the view I would take as a result of that person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think I've already point like you just agreed like it's not going to be an argumentatively solid response, and I
That's not
mean,
always my goal. Like, my goal isn't to give you like a whole syllogism on why I'm right. I
it doesn't
just,
have to be like
I'm
a whole
just
syllogism. If
talking.
you give like a natural language form its argument, which actually follows, which doesn't have to be a syllogism. That's fine.
I mean, I'm trying to explain my worldview to you, and you're looking for like a syllogism. I don't know how to explain it even further to you. Like,
Well, I'm
generally,
not pulling
not
like
all
the
my
ask
views are based
yourself
off of
Isaac type shit
arguments.
where I'm saying like, what's the syllogism? What's the first premise? Like, I'm not
Yeah, I
doing
know.
that. I'm just saying like, what's your argument? Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, premise one, the premise two, p plus. Like, I know
Yeah,
it
I know.
doesn't have
It's
to
just generally when I look at a
be.
thing, like when I'm talking about like modal terms, like necessary contingent, the way I think about them is in the way I think of like, okay, it's
Mhm,
me. If I lost something, would I become not me? And the answer is probably
mhm.
like, I don't know. But then
Yeah,
it
it's
seems
just
like
like the
for,
personal identity question, like what
yeah,
makes
of course.
someone someone, and like
Yeah.
again, like the way I ground personal identity is kind of different, but like it's not really just a question about personal identity, but just like overall metaphysical identity, right? And the
Yeah, sure.
condition for something existence. And I was like basically saying to you that like this goes back to like the prior question and the disagreements we had, which is like if it is a case that we have some like the accidental properties in this case aren't going to be the causal conditions or the parts that I'm talking about. It's going to be something which is contingently acquainted with this said being, which isn't something which the being itself depends on. And like the whole idea again is going to be it's going to go back to the dichotomy which I presented on the first horn, like it being simple entails it being necessary. The second horn would entail, under your view, being contingent or whatever, right?
I guess I don't know enough about the symbol one to argue. What was the multiplicity one? How does that go?
I was saying that like given the okay, yeah. So if this well this the multiplicity one just entails it being fucking it not being brute. It contradicts it being brute in nature, because if it has multiplicity, then given my kind of causation, it would
Yeah, I
have to be
guess.
caused.
And your kind of
Yes. And
causation
like
is given an entity's properties, right?
yeah, and I've already explained to you why it is not true that
Yeah,
temporal
I just,
causation is a requirement for something to be caused. For one, the concept of causation does not require temporality in the background, and for two, it is contradicted by other accounts of
yeah, but then your
causation.
framework's just unappealing to me. Like, if you were to say that brute contingencies don't exist in like respect to this form of causation, I'm just gonna say that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, you'd agree that the cause is a reason for something's existence,
A what?
a reason for something else's existence.
Wouldn't I have to disagree if I believe in brute contingencies? It seems like a contradiction, right?
No, I'm just saying I'm talking about cause. Like you can
Yeah, I
you can
understand
be
that.
someone who's like a realist about brute contingency, but still believe that a cause is a reason
A
for
cause
something
for
else.
no explanation.
No. A cause, the definition of a cause is
Yeah.
something which is a reason for something else's existence. That's what I'm asking you. Do you
Are
agree
we,
with
are
this
we including events, or are we just talking about entities, or what?
Both. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
I mean, I guess just because I haven't thought about anything outside of that parameter.
Of course, yeah. So a cause is just a reason for something else's existence, and a reason is not logically entailed from a reason that it has to be something which temporally precedes something else. Therefore, it is not true that causation has to be something which is temporal. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, I don't get that. Where are you pulling X from Y? Like, I don't understand the connection.
Sure. So reason, like a reason, is just an explanation for something, a cause explanation. Nothing within the idea of a cause explanation, given our different definition, entails temporal precedence. Therefore, it is not the case that temporal causation is necessary.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I would argue it's unnecessary. We just don't like that's what we use when we
Of
talk
course.
about it. Yeah, like that.
So you
When we're
cannot use
talking
like you
about.
cannot use the argument. So like if it is not necessary, then you cannot say if it is possible and temporal causation does not exist, then that means it is impossible. Oh, sorry, if it is not the case, if it is not the case that, let me just repeat myself, sorry. But this is the music. If it is not the case that temporal causation or the absence of temporal causation is impossible, then that means it is possible for brute contingency to be the case. That wouldn't follow, right? Because then you're
But then
going to
you're
be
interacting with the
ignoring the
argument.
other one.
Yeah, but the argument is using temporal causation. That's like what we're talking about when we're talking about root contingencies.
No, we're just talking about something which doesn't have a cause for its own existence, not
What
a
do you think the
temporally
PSR is
preceding
talking
cause.
about? The PSR is talking about
These are
temporal
just talking
causation.
about an explanation for something else's existence, nothing to do with the
Right,
idea
usually
entails
in
a
reference.
temporally preceding explanation.
Yeah, my understanding of
Usually
the.
reference is not the same as necessary reference, right? It can be the case that it is usually referencing some temporally preceding
But then
cause,
I
but it
just
is
don't
not necessary.
care. Sure, if you're using a different format, I just don't care then, because like that's not what I'm
It's
saying
just
when I say a root
it's not a
contingency
different
exists.
format. It's just the thing that we're talking about. That's just what is entailed from the literature, right?
Yeah, I understand that, but if you're not using temporal causation, then I don't really care, because like my argument is like, okay, but there's like a temporal
But
causation.
that
That's
means you're
kind of
not
like a
engaging with
prerequisite.
the argument that I'm making, because like if you're like an agnostic
Sure, but I'm
person, then like
not.
the piece is just making like an argument for here's the reason as to why God exists, and then you're like pulling up like this thing which does not respond to the argument to debunk the argument, and then you're just gonna say that okay, even though it doesn't respond to the argument, I don't care. Then that means you just don't care about any form of productive dialectical engagement, and at that point, you're just really not. You're just making the piece speed you up, to be honest, like to Apollo.
Well, it's not
In my
productive
opinion.
if we have completely different worldviews that are grounding two different claims. Like if you want to say your worldview grounds the fact
We're
there
not
are
even two
none,
different
yeah,
worldviews.
whatever.
The fundamental worldview of cause is the same. It's just that you just care about a specific part of this fundamental worldview and ignore the other part, which is literally also entailed from said fundamental
No,
worldview.
I've never seen anybody talk about the PSR in reference to any other type of causation. That's just from what I've seen, though.
I tell
So
about
yeah,
like
just
Fester, for example, he talks about like these things require an explanation insofar as that this explanation doesn't have to be a per accident one, it can be a per se cause. That's one person. Or this goes back to like even the person was talking about David, for example. Like, there's several other persons who hold like a realist perspective, like asymmetrical spontaneous effects, whereas you're not going to specifically reference something which is temporally precedent the effect. It can be something which does not temporally precede the effect, but explain the effect. So there are several people who actually are realists about these types of causation. There are several papers on field papers that are which covers counterfactualist views of causation, which doesn't actually reference temporal forms of causation.
sure, that's
So
fine. I
your
just
claim is
don't
just
care
wrong.
then. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like from what I've seen, all like the genuine like. Yeah, well, the general things that I've seen have been talking about temporal cause. If you're talking about something else, then fine, you're talking about something else. But don't expect me to engage with that if it's not what I'm arguing against, right? Like, I don't care whether you want to put like
What you're
counterfactual
arguing against is what
causality.
I'm saying, right? So if what
Well,
I'm
because
saying is this,
I assumed
then
you were talking about the same kind of causality. When you said root continuities don't exist, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's wrong. Let me
would you
cite
agree
the,
that
and you're
under
like,
my kind of causation, it is entailed that
I have
root
no idea.
contingency is impossible?
No idea. I have not looked into any type of like counterfactual, like Humean causality. I haven't looked into any of that.
Oh, I'll just send you papers on it then. That's fine.
Please don't. I'm not reading them.
Then you're just being woefully ignorant, like
Yeah, that's
dark
fine.
document.
I'm too busy with school to go through like all these boring ass papers, and just
Then
now
you
my
go through
head
it
is
winter,
through winter.
like
What are you
when
talking
winter,
about?
like when you go to like a winter break.
Oh, yeah, because I want to spend my break reading full papers. You're right.
It doesn't take that long. Like I
I'm
just
reading the
like you can just like
SEP any
read
day of
like,
the week. Not touching the paper. Give me the SCP article. I'll read
oh
that.
yeah,
Okay.
sure. There's SCP on it. That's fine.
I think I've read. It was like 2 years ago. I read the SCP article on like causation. It was so fucking boring that I just could not care less about it.
Yeah.
So
I agree
what
that Phil
happened?
reading is more.
Did you concede? What happened?
He's just arguing for something that I'm not arguing against, basically. He's talking about like, oh, well, causation has like 5 different terms. I'm like, yeah, but when I talk about this, I'm using one term. So obviously, I was arguing something that he wasn't arguing
Well,
for.
you understand that, like, so it's kind of like this. We both agree with the same concept of root contingency, but then you're kind of like restricting this initial conceptual agreements we have on the table to this constituent of said agreement, whereas I'm kind of like addressing all constituents of said conceptual agreement, which means that my arguments regarding the topic are more reliable because it is actually engaging fully with the concept, whereas you're just partially engaged with the
That's
concept.
not how that works. Because when we're talking about root contingency, and like from the view I'm looking at, we're talking about temporality. So even though if you could generalize to 7 other different types, it doesn't make it more right to look at those 7 different types if they're irrelevant.
So like you think that like if I was to talk about, let's say say I was to talk about any object X, or like I basically address like this one object instead of like we're talking about all the objects, right? That set property, and then just specifically attack this one object instead of like looking at all the sets to make a generalization or an inference about the properties. I think that's going to be something which is a good dialectical engagement.
I just think it's irrelevant. It just has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
It's funny because
Like, so-
I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's listening what I'm trying to say here, right? And I'm sorry I'm not really explaining myself properly. I'm kind of like on the road. I'm taking a walk. So like yeah, my mind is mentally dazed, but I'm pretty sure you get the idea of what I'm saying, right? I mean, you're not fully
Yeah, I
engaged with
understand that.
the whole concept.
Yeah, sure, and I don't plan on it because it's not engaging with the whole concept. Like the root contingency that I've seen doesn't engage with every type of causation. If you're saying that's different, then fine, it's different, but that's not what I'm arguing for or against. So I don't really like. It doesn't mean anything to me. To tell me it's
Wait,
counterfactually impossible.
Apollo,
So,
in your system, do you distinguish essential and modal necessity?
essentially modal necessity.
Yeah, do you distinguish them?
I don't know what you mean. Like you have to capture the terms of both, and then I'll give a specific answer to the question. Not trying to dodge or anything. I just need to know what you're saying.
I'll discuss it with you later. Other people have been hating on you on the chat. Like, check the chat for this VC. Let's scroll up.
Is this the guy with the Arabic letters or something?
It's me, it's me.
Okay. You're saying people are hating on me in this chat, right?
Yeah, check.
Oh, let me check all of.
Scroll up.
I think he's talking about Mason or something.
Guys, is BTF owed a nice term? Should I be proud of that?
No,
Well,
Turns.
usually
You said I
isn't a
accepted
very good
turns.
term.
Like I mean,
One of the
the
Thanks,
guy
guys.
turns who the guy
Yo.
turns. Okay, so it's funny because like when I had the talk with him the last time, I was like bullying him on like specifically the points regarding first begging the question part, and then I was bullying him on some other points, and then he was trying to like basically equivocate his way out
Wait,
of it,
where?
and then he had to
Talking to me?
leave for dinner, which is pretty much a bad excuse. But I
Wait, I'm
mean,
begging the question on
the
what?
modal collapse
when did I say
acceptance
that?
is not
Apollo.
something which implies someone being silly.
Apollo, by the way, where are
Yeah,
you
that's
from?
retarded.
Yeah, turns. I wouldn't waste your time with somebody
And
like this.
the other guy, SAS, he's the same guy who ducks me in politics. Like you're literally the same guy. He was literally the same guy who was shit talking me in the VC, and then everyone in the VC just disagreed with him and like, hey, Apollo's making very good points, and he suddenly had to leave when I called him out. Like, well, I had to go on the road. Then like I called him out
Wait,
again
this
yesterday,
person.
and for some
Wait,
reason he couldn't
Apollo.
talk to me in the VC.
I think I
Apollo,
remember him saying something like that. I mean, of course, I had to go to calculus class at the point, but I
Yeah,
don't
so we
even know
can
if I
talk right
want to
now. I
talk
can
to
just
a
bully you and then
I
bully
don't even
turns
know if
after,
I
and then I
want to
just go to
talk.
bed. Which one is it?
I don't even know if I want to talk to
Oh.
this retarded, especially in
Of
this
course, so
server.
this is ducking. This is ducking. It's kind of like the case where like you should talk to someone because you may disagree with their worldviews, or they're just so much better than you to the point where your ego gets so hurt by it, and then you try to like shit talk you as a coping mechanism. And then when the person calls you, I don't even know if I want to talk to you because you're just too silly, right? I mean, that's not really.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a ducking implication. So I can joke. I can just
I
go on
didn't
to the
listen
other
to what he
person.
said, but I didn't listen to what he
Of
said.
course
but,
you did listen, but you're just kind of
I
like
don't know if I want
flabbergasted to the
to
point where you're
like
not able to
talk
respond.
to a moron in a VC where he's the mod.
Yeah,
and he can
because you're
kind
scared.
of
We get it.
abuse the
This is just
clinician.
ducking. This is
So
just your
I don't
your
know if I
pussy's
actually
just
want to
shivering
waste
He's
right
my
not
now.
gonna
time with
mod
the
abuse.
retard
He's
here.
not gonna mod abuse.
But
He's
Turns,
been discussing with
talk. We can
Moose.
talk right now.
He's
Turns, we
been
can talk right now.
discussing with Moose, and he didn't even mod abuse him.
Yeah, but look,
Turnz,
if
we
he
can
thinks
talk
that
right.
there's a
Exactly what I'm
topic that we
saying. I
disagree
did the
on,
modal
he
abuse him. I
can
did the modal abuse my
go to a
oldest son
different server.
Turnz was bullying
Maybe
a
I can
couple days
educate the
ago.
retard there, but if he thinks there's a topic, we
He's
disagree on
literally
that. I'm not
ducking. He's literally
interested in
ducking.
really
He's
talking
running
in a
away.
server like
But we
this.
can talk in politics. We can talk in politics. Tell him we can talk in politics.
What is this,
I
like
can bully him in
an
politics.
anime server? Why would I waste my time here?
It's a enemy server. What about it?
Bro, and then why are you staying here? You're free to leave.
But Turnz,
Anyways,
Turnz is beast. You
it's
can mic up.
getting
We can talk
silly.
about the same thing we were talking about before because you were saying to me.
What did he
Turnz is
discuss
the
with
same
him?
guy who was bullying literally recently. Like he's actually unironically worse than Moose, and he's here trying to say that Moose is getting BTFO'd. I mean, at least Moose's track record was saying much better than what your
Wait, what did
fucking
he
shit show
discuss with
performance he was
Turnz
putting
last time?
on. The recent.
You conceded that a
We were
sufficient
me and
causality
Turnz are
is going to
talking about
be.
fucking modal collapse, and
You
he thought that
conceded
accepting modal
that
collapse
sufficient.
automatically defeats Neoplatonism.
Yeah,
Like he's a
you
retard.
said no. You said that it was like a contingency.
Yeah, let's go.
argument, right?
Turnz bullying session round 2. Let's go.
I
But
apologize.
you
$50
accepted the
and you make me
sufficient.
proud.
You accepted the
That's not a
sufficient
defeater to
causality.
Neoplatonism, retard. You look stupid.
That's a defeater to the modal collapse.
Okay,
claim.
explain to me the contradiction from someone accepting a sufficient and necessary condition and them accepting the Platonic arguments. Go for where's the P and I'm gonna help you
I
on
was
this
talking
one.
about modal
I'm gonna help you on this.
collapse.
So, I'm gonna help you on this one. Premise 1.
Yeah, I was talking about
Apollo accepts.
necessitarianism.
Wait. Hold on there a second. Now you're just dodging because you're attacking the Neoplatonic argument. I'm
No,
gonna
I
help
was
you on this
talking
one.
about
No, yes, you are.
necessitarianism.
The conversation was about the
No,
Neoplatonic argument.
I was talking
Don't try to
about
run away. Don't try to run away, Ducky.
necessitarianism.
Don't try to run away.
No,
okay?
no one's
Back
running
up. We're here,
away.
Ducky. We're
Already,
here, quiet.
no, I was addressing the
Stop stumbling. I thought you were much smarter
necessitarianism
than
that
me.
you
Come
were
on now.
espousing.
You're looking bad. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you the argument.
Wait, so
again,
do you have
this
a
is
do you have a
this is
counter
the
to
first
the
objection.
sufficient conditions counter of necessitarianism?
The sufficient condition counter of necessitarianism. The sufficient condition, or being a realist about a sufficient condition, does not defeat necessitarianism.
Yeah, it would, right? Because that's going to imply some
Okay,
sort of
where's the P and
existential.
not P in granted
Wait,
necessitarianism?
no.
and
There's not
granted
going to be
condition?
It's going to be something like a sufficient condition is just going to entail something like contingency, but obviously since you can't hold to contingency, that's a
Why
contradiction.
does a sufficient condition entail a contingency?
What do you think a sufficient condition is?
A sufficient
It
condition
means
is
that in
something
the
which
absence.
will actualize the effect. That's not something which entails contingency.
Yeah, so if you have the
You're
absence
fucking
of
stupid.
if you have the absence of the cause, and you're not going to have the effect, right?
That's not response to what I'm saying. I hope you realize this.
Yeah, it is.
Explain without me just saying the claim that it's not responsive. I can point to you as to why it does not.
If you have a
respond to that
sufficient
claim. Do you want me to
condition,
give you a philosophy
then it's
lecture
going
on
to entail
this?
that's not actually necessitarian.
Okay. Look, this is like a reason as to why I just don't like talking to sub 70 IQ people, because they have this ego and then they just don't have.
Wait, do you think you've actually given a
Look at this.
response?
Look at
Like
this.
you're just running away because you
Look
can't
at this.
actually give
I'm
a
going to respond to it.
response.
No, I haven't
Like
responded.
if you want
to
to just
the point you
insult
made.
people, that's fine.
I
Like, I
haven't
haven't laid out any
insulted you.
insults on you.
I'm insulting you.
Do you not cash that out as an insult? 70 IQ?
I don't think me
In any
calling you out
case,
to
do
be
you
a
have a
sub 70
response?
IQ person, which is true, is an insult. It's
Look, if
true.
you don't have a
Sadly,
response, it's fine.
unfortunately.
You can just concede.
I don't have a response. I was gonna give you a response, but you're basically trying to interrupt me because guess what? You're like shivering because you know what the next response is gonna give. What's gonna crumble your argument to fucking pieces. That's why I kept on interrupting. So my
Did it?
response to you is gonna be this, right? If it is a case that the sufficient condition is something which will actualize the effects, right? And you cannot present to me the P and not P in granting a sufficient condition and being a metaphysical necessitarian, then it is not the case that this hurts necessitarianism.
That's
Therefore, it is
fine
not
because I
true.
gave you the P and not P,
It's
dumbass.
fine.
Do you know what it was?
You
Do
didn't
you
give
know
me
what
the
it
P and
was?
not P actually.
Do you know? Wait, hold on. I gave you the P and not P already. So do you know
P
what
and
it
P or
was?
P and not P? Which one is it?
Do you know what it was? Yes or no?
You didn't give one.
If you want to quibble over words, that's fine. Like, do you actually know what it was? Because I already gave you it.
Go
So
ahead and
sum
give
up
me the
what I
if you
said.
did give me it.
Yeah. So what did I say?
Wait, I said to you, go ahead and give me again.
Wait, guys,
If
I
you
gave
did give
him.
it,
I
and
gave
then
him
you're
the
saying,
argument.
what did you
Okay,
say?
he didn't even track the conversation, right? He gave a response. He
I
didn't even
tracked
track
the
it.
argument. I tracked what you said, but you're saying I did not track
Yeah,
it
so what
when
did I
you're literally
say?
scared to actually repeat what he
Wait,
supposedly said
your
because you
argument
knew what he
was
said. Did not
your
respond
argument.
to my
No. Your argument was if you don't give a P and not P, that's going to be an issue. But I did give a P and not P, so that's not an issue.
Well, what's the evidence you did give a not P?
I don't know. Probably the fact that I did it just like 2 minutes ago.
That's question begging. I can just say the reason as to why I did not give a P and not P.
I
is the
mean,
fact that you
I
didn't
mean, I
2
have
minutes ago.
witnesses, right?
You look
Like I
stupid.
just gave you the P and not
Really?
P.
That was your best attempt at
Yeah,
argumentation?
I
Come
gave
on,
you the P and
again.
not
Try
P.
again.
Look, if you
Yeah,
don't want to
the
give a
reason as to why
response,
I
that's
give a
fine.
P and not
Turnz,
P is
Turnz.
because of the
This
fact that I
guy's
did
clearly
2 minutes
this
ago.
guy's clearly
Okay,
a
I can
troll.
just
Like,
do
why
the
would we
same
waste
logic
our
back
time?
onto you and make it look stupid.
No, so you restated the claim after I gave you the refutation, right? But the
I restated the
claim was
claim? No, I
refuted.
didn't.
Yeah, the claim was that I can't give a contradiction, but then I did give a contradiction, so obviously it's not going to be the case.
What I asked you for one to prove that you did give a contradiction, you question back on that part. And besides, I'll just say that
Wait,
you did
hold on.
not give
What
a
do you think
P.
question begging is?
Question begging is when the conclusion is smuggled within the premise, insofar as the premise
what
assumes the
premise?
conclusion.
Yeah, what premise did I say?
Yeah, sure. The premise for the conclusion that you did give a P and not P, that you gave a P and not P 2 minutes ago, which is you did give this in the first place. Really?
Wait,
That was so easy. That
you
was
just
way
question
too
bagged
easy.
right now. Wait,
That's because I'm reflecting
the
your arguments.
argument
Are you
that you
stupid?
question bagged.
I just
Wait,
reflected your argument,
the
and you're saying
argument that
I'm
you
question
question
begging, so you're
bagged.
continuing your
The
question begging.
argument that you
I told you
question
what your
bagged.
argument was,
Okay.
and your response is that's
The
question begging. That
argument
means you consider
the
your own argument was
the
question begging,
argument
retard. You
that
look
you
stupid.
question begged was you begged the question in virtue of begging the question.
No, I didn't.
Right?
The question that was not the question begging argument. I gave you your argument. You asked me what was the argument that is question begging. I gave you the argument, then give you the
Oh my
conceptual
Yes, what
link
is it?
between the definition of question begging and the argument itself and the structure for the argument. And your response is, "Well, you understand this question begging? You fucking retard! No shit. It's
Yeah,
your
so where
argument.
did
That's
I
question begging, and I'm
beg
trying
the
to give you your
question?
argument.
Where did I
You're
beg
such
the
a fucking
question?
idiot.
No, I didn't even have that argument. Where did I beg the question?
Okay, yes, you did. When I asked you specifically,
No?
and I can even ask Moose in this call, when I asked you that what was the evidence for you giving the P and not P, you said maybe because of the fact that I gave a P and not P 2 minutes ago, and I said that was question begging. You fucking
It's not
retard.
question
You don't
begging,
even
right?
know
That's
what your claim
empirically
was.
experienced. It's not going to be
It's
question begging.
empirically
You can
experienced.
refer
We
back
prove
to
it's
that with
empirically
testimonial
experienced.
evidence.
Yeah, okay, so now you're just saying that it's empirically experienced. That's hedging, right? Because that was not your first justification for why I did give a P and not
That's
P.
going to be
Your
a
first
corollary.
justification is restating it implicitly.
No. That's going to be a
Why is
corollary,
this
right?
guy
So, like, that's just going to be implicit, right? If I say, like, oh, well, we experienced this event 2 minutes ago, and you ask me, like,
Now you're just
well,
saying experience.
how do you
That
know
was not
you
the first argument
experienced
you gave.
it? How do you know
That
you
was not the
experienced
first.
it?
That
And
was
I
not the first.
say,
That was not the first one you gave. Now
I
you're just
know I
changing the
experienced it
argument,
2
so you
minutes
concede the
ago.
first
Well, if
argument.
I know I
You
experienced it 2
concede that the
minutes ago,
first
right? It's
argument
going to be a
was question
corollary that
begging.
it's
Thank
actually
you
an
for your
empirical.
concession. Buddy, you just
No,
conceded that the
I
first
already
argument was
gave
question
you.
begging.
I already gave you.
You
recitation
said
of assessments.
originally that the reason as to why there's a P and not P is because, or you presented the P and not P, is in virtue of you given one. I'm not saying that the justification for you
No,
giving
you
the
don't
P
even
and
know
not
what it
P is
was,
because you
right?
empirically
No,
experienced
this is why I was trying to
you
point out,
saying
right?
I
You
don't
don't
know what
even
it
know.
was is not
Wait,
an
hold on,
indication.
Apollo. Wait, hold up, real
It
quick.
could be
real
the case
quick,
that you just
real
never
quick.
gave one in the first
Wait,
place, and that's why I
stop,
don't know what it is.
stop,
Don't tell me what to
stop,
do, buddy.
stop,
I'm fucking boss.
stop,
I tell
stop,
you what to do.
stop,
So here, what?
stop,
You give a response right now like a good boy. Go
Okay, so I already gave you the response,
good bitch.
and then
Go ahead,
you
good
don't
bitch.
even know
Continue
what it
responding.
was, right?
Continue
You didn't
responding.
track anything, right? So if you can't
Well,
even
that
track the
just assumes you gave
conversation,
a
I'm done,
response,
dude.
which
You
is
can just
sufficient for the
concede.
conversation. That
Why is
concede
this guy
what?
such a
Music
troll?
and
Like,
beliefs.
what
What
a
are you talking
retard.
about? You're lost in the sauce. Look at you. All of this is recorded, by the way. I hope you know this. Like, you're just looking bad right now.
Yeah,
This
so
is not
you
even a
have the
good
recording
rhetorical
of me
nor
giving the
argument.
P and not P. That's
You
great.
look
Maybe you
horrible.
can look back
Yeah,
at the
Turnz.
recording and say, "Oh, he did give the P and not P." I'm just
Maybe I
being a
look back on the
dumbass.
recording and I say, maybe
It's
he did
such a
worse
waste
than
of
I actually
time.
thought he did it the first time. Yes, a waste of time for me to be schooling some fucking retard online. I could be doing something more. I did this, like maybe continue the conversation with the other guy
Yeah, maybe
or
actually
something else.
follow, maybe actually
Maybe
track
actually
and
just
actually know what I
follow. Yeah,
said.
yeah. Just like how you couldn't follow the first argument you gave was question begging and concede that it was question begging, but I said the argument I gave, which was your argument, was question begging. You fucking retard. Look at you. Fucking dummy. Oh
Wait,
my
no,
god.
it's
Yeah,
not
Turnz,
question.
I
No,
think
it's
whether
not
or
question
not
begging. I
Oh my
already
god, you're
clarified,
so stupid.
right? Because it's going to be implicit to the
You already
argument that it's going
clarified
to
that you're an
be
imbecile
an
who does not
empirical
know what
claim.
question begging is?
Yeah,
No,
Turnz, I think
it's
he's just
implicit to the argument
gonna.
that it's an empirical claim.
I think he's just gonna keep trolling.
You
But I
just
think what
actually
you
a
were
while ago
saying
because
about.
originally wait, hold
Oh,
on, hold on.
he's
Yeah, I'm
still
speaking to
talking.
him
Okay.
first. So yeah, I'm still speaking. So shut the fuck up. Okay. So the thing is that your first argument was it's not even you specifying or appealing to empirical experiences, right? That was the second thing you said when you already agreed or couldn't respond to the idea that the first argument you gave was question begging. So not only is that a hedge and fallacy, but that's you being
The first
unwilling
argument.
to actually respond to the first.
What
Yeah,
was
the first
the
argument is
argument? What was the argument I gave against necessitarianism? How did it question beg?
wait a second. That assumes you give an argument which is adequate to the response for the claim that it
No,
was
no,
not.
no, no, no. Everyone saw me in this conversation. I gave an argument, right? It hinged on sufficient and necessary conditions. I gave an
Everyone
argument and I gave a
saw that you gave an
contradiction.
adequate argument which points out the contradiction.
What was inadequate about it?
Which was
Yeah, that's
actually
all
a
right.
response.
If you don't actually know the argument,
You
you
said
can just
everyone
stop
said it.
fucking
You said
talking.
everyone agrees with this. So give me the proof and evidence, please, and thank you. Stop dodging. Stop running away.
So what was
Or
the
we're just
argument I
saying.
gave?
Wait.
What was
So
the
wait a second.
argument? What was the
Mhm.
argument I gave about sufficient conditions? argument.
So that assumes you gave a sufficient argument in the first place, which I disagreed in the first place. That's going to be a question.
Do you even know what it was? You don't even
that's gonna
fucking know what it
That's
was,
going to be a
dude.
question which has controversial assumptions.
He didn't even track the argument. That's what I'm
That assumes
highlighting.
you even gave an argument which is responsive to my claim.
I did, retard. I
But
summed
then when I
up what
asked
it.
you for
Oh
the
my
evidence,
God,
you're like,
a
well, I
fucking
did
idiot.
2 minutes ago. That's going to be question begging. And if we're going to say, well, my empirical experiences is X, I can just say my empirical experiences is not X. There you go. Under
All right,
determination.
Texas. Did you see me give the argument? Like I fucking gave the argument with using sufficient conditions.
Yeah, I just took it that you were saying something like there are sufficient conditions. If there are sufficient conditions, then necessitarianism is false.
That's not the
Therefore,
argument. He does
Yeah,
not the
false.
argument.
Yeah, that's
Look,
what
no,
I
that
gave,
was
yeah.
Is that the
that
argument?
he's
Yeah,
making.
that's the
That's not an
argument,
argument.
Okay, yeah,
That's not an
yeah.
argument.
Sorry that
You
this retard
saying
is
that
talking.
if this is
Sorry
true,
that the
hold on.
retard
Him
is talking
saying
over me.
that if this is true, him saying that if this is true, then necessitarianism is false, is the conditional statement. The argument would be what justifies there being a material implication between the antecedent and the consequent to make the conditional statement true.
Jesus
Right?
Christ.
That's not you giving an argument. That's just you stating his position. You fucking retard.
No,
That's what
I
was not
did
even
give an argument. I did give an argument for the second premise.
Oh, what he said a
For the
while
first
ago was not
premise.
even an argument. That was just your position. That was
Wait,
questioned.
what was the
What are you
issue with
talking
the
about?
argument? What was the issue with the argument?
Did you even give an argument?
Wait, hold on. Wait, you said specifically your argument was X, and then when I asked you what's the issue, you
Your
said
argument
no,
to
no,
the
when I
I
asked
said
you,
the
when I
argument
asked
related
you,
to
when
you
I
giving an
asked
argument
you,
is question
when
begging.
I asked you what's the issue,
What?
like,
You're
when
so
I asked
stupid. Look,
you,
I said your
wait,
argument.
guys, you can't
said
even
your
fucking
argument
track,
with
okay?
respect to
When
you
I asked
giving
you
an
what the
argument
argument
begging.
is,
I'm not talking
when
about what
I
you gave an
asked
argument.
you, when I asked you,
Different.
okay, dude,
That's different. Now you're just trying to
okay,
equivocate your way
when
out
I
of this
asked you
bullshit. It's
what
not
the
working,
argument
buddy.
is, okay, dude, he just like has to keep interrupting.
I
Right?
said your
'Cause
argument with
it would
respect to
only
you
take
giving an actual
about,
argument
yeah,
about
I
the
only have
topic
5
is question
seconds
begging.
to finish
I was
the
not
statement.
talking about any potentially arguments you've given on the topic about necessitarianism. That's a different conversational topic. Stop trying to dodge your way out of this.
You said that I didn't prove it, and then when I asked
Only
you what
arguments.
makes you think that,
Only
and then when okay, let's just
I
steamroll
highlighted.
incessantly because you
The
know
only
that you're
argument
failing.
that I
Okay, you can
highlighted
just
and
keep doing that.
emphasized was the arguments you gave for you giving an argument against necessitarianism and the conditional. That was what I was talking about. I never talked about you giving an argument about the topic about necessitarianism. Now you're just trying to ride your way out of this, you dishonest weasel.
So what was the argument I gave?
For why you did give an argument?
No, because everyone knows that I did give an argument, right? It hinged on sufficient
Well, you've not proved
conditions,
that
right?
everyone
Even
knows
Texas
it because
knows
the
this.
one person who said he gave an argument and tried to give a recollection of the argument did not give an argument, but instead gave your position. Interesting.
They gave premises, right? What do you think an argument is?
They did give premises. They gave
Are you fucking stupid? What do you think an argument is? Sum up to me. What is an
Jesus
argument?
Christ.
anything which they did not give an argument as to why, or sorry, they did not give a recollection about your argument against necessitarianism. They gave your position on the view of necessitarianism. which is
Fucking
What do you think an
idiot.
argument is?
This guy's like
No.
retarded.
What do you think an argument is? No, a
An
position.
argument is just going to be, are going to allow me to answer the question, or just going to keep on skedaddling? The argument, or an argument by definition, an argument by definition is going to be anything which is a premise or set of premises or reasons for a conclusion. That's an argument.
Right. So, and what did Mason give you? Premises and a conclusion.
And what they
right?
did was state your position, not the argument for said position.
No,
your
he
position
gave you
being the
premises
conclusion.
and a
He's not
conclusion. He
even
said
listening.
premise one,
Sufficient
premise
condition
two,
is granted,
conclusion.
then necessitarianism is
This
false.
dude's a fucking
That
idiot.
was
He
what
doesn't
he
even know what
stated.
an argument is.
Fucking
So
moron.
wait, hold on there a
Like,
second. So when
he's
I
not
said
even
to you a while ago,
listening to the conversation.
when I said to you a while ago that an argument is a so when I said to you a while ago that's an argument is anything or any reason or set of reasons for a conclusion, that's a wrong definition.
That's the correct definition, but you got the
So
the
then
wrong
how do I not know
idea,
what an
right?
argument is? You're so stupid.
So
You're so dumb.
okay, so
That definition
wait,
was
no. So did Mason? So did Mason give an argument? So did Mason give an argument?
No, he didn't. Because that's when I'm talking about you not giving an argument. I'm talking about you not giving an argument for why necessitarianism. Shut up. When I'm saying he's not giving an argument, he's not giving or proving that you gave an argument for why necessitarianism and sufficient condition, if granted, is a contradiction. He did not give an argument for that. He just simply restated the conclusion or the position, which is that if this thing is granted, then necessitarianism is false, which is different. You fucking retard.
I already gave it, right? So if you want to just concede that you didn't track, then that's fine, and I can give it again.
All he did was give a conditional statement. If a conditional statement in this context,
I warranted the conditional statement earlier.
For said conditional, dummy. I'm talking about the fact that you did not give an argument for why you give an argument regarding the implications that exist.
I gave the I gave the one
Now you're
for
just
the
repeating
conditional
yourself like a
statement
fucking
earlier.
retard after you got tried. You just said a while ago that, oh, you don't know what an argument is, and then you agreed my definition was correct. Then which one is it, retard? Pick a struggle. Pick a struggle, you fucking low IQ victim.
Yeah,
You
this
didn't
isn't really going anywhere.
you
I
didn't
don't.
Yeah,
assess
I gave a correct
I don't know if
Texas's
you want
definition,
to
but
statement
keep
I don't know
correctly.
going,
what
but
an argument is. That
You
makes
didn't
so much sense.
assess
Fucking
you didn't
stupid.
assess Texas's statement correctly. That's what I was getting
Yeah,
at.
yeah. I mean, the guy Apollo who is beating my ass right now gave a correct definition, but he doesn't know what an argument is. Makes sense, right, guys?
But you
Fucking
didn't know
dummy.
how to
Fucking
apply the
stupid.
definition. That's what I was getting at. You didn't know
I
how to
did not
apply it.
look up the definition. I see that he
Yeah.
did not give a set of premises as to why he
He
gave an
did give
argument,
he
or
did give
you
a
give an
premise.
argument. Shut up,
Okay.
shut up, shut up,
Okay.
shut up.
No.
He
He
did not give an
did, right?
argument.
He
He
said
did not give an argument as
premise
to why
one,
you
if
give an
sufficient
argument
conditions are
or
true,
the conditional.
necessitarianism is false.
Holy
Premise
shit, that would be
two,
that would
sufficient
be the
conditions are
conclusion.
true.
You dummy,
Conclusion,
that's your position.
necessitarianism is
Dummy,
false.
that's your position.
That's
We're asking
not
you
a
what is
fucking
the
position,
reason.
dumbass.
We're asking
The
you what is the
conclusion is my
reason.
position.
You fucking dummy. So you don't
Holy
think a conditional statement
shit.
can be a premise or a claim? A conditional statement
Okay,
is just
what do you
one
think a
position.
position
It's a
is?
claim.
What do you think a position is?
A position is just a belief. You think a conditional statement is a belief?
it seems like that's like
No.
The
Position
argument.
is just
The
going to be
Position
like the
is a
main
belief
belief.
on the
Or
matter.
the
You don't think if I say
the
you don't think if I say that
conclusion that
if
one
God
has.
exists. Wait, hold on there a second. Hold on there a second. I don't think you understand what you're talking about. You asked me what is a position. A position is just a belief on the matter. Do you not think that if you were to say that if I grant a
No?
sufficient condition, then necessitarianism is true is not a belief? That's not
Wait,
a
hold
belief?
on. Wait, hold on. So you think that
Is it not a belief?
you
Is it
think
not
that
a
any
belief?
wait, you think
Is
that
it
any
not a belief? I'm
I'm
asking
asking
you.
a
Is it not a
clarifying
belief?
I'm asking
Now
a
you're just running
clarifying
away.
question,
Oh,
dumbass.
so it is a belief.
I'm asking
So
a
it is a belief. So
clarifying
it is a
question.
position.
I'm
So it
asking
is
a
a position.
clarifying
Clarifying
question. I'm
question is not responding
asking
to
a
my question.
clarifying question.
A clarifying question is not a response to my question, so I don't care about it.
Yes, well, I have to ask it to get a adequate gauge of what you're
What is
saying.
different? What was hard about my question to fucking track, you fucking retard?
I was asking,
What is there to
is it
clarify?
going to
My
be the
question is pretty
case?
simple, you fucking low IQ retard.
No, you can't even track, dude. You don't even know what
Position
I
is a
gave. You
belief.
don't even know
I'm
the
not
argument I
tracking. I can
gave.
tell
You
you
don't
every
even know
single
the
point you've
argument
been
I
making with
gave.
this very conversation. I can literally make a fucking story about this conversation and it'll be so fucking on point. What are you talking about? I'm not tracking. I can tell you every single response about me and you again. How's that
Okay,
a
so
fucking better memory
what's the
than you?
contradiction I gave? Okay, what's the contradiction I gave?
That it seems you've even given the contradiction. What's the argument for you giving the contradiction?
Oh my god. What's the argument for? I don't know, because I fucking experienced it like 3 minutes ago.
Could you prove you experienced it?
I'm not doing this fucking intellectually dishonest bullshit, dude. Can
What
you
if you're
prove
just being dishonest? I'm being dishonest? You're the one who's literally being dishonest and was trying to
it's an
set up my
arbitrary
claim. What are you
claim.
talking about?
Dude, I'm
What are you
not doing
talking
this
about?
shit of like, oh,
You're
you
not
can't actually
gonna
prove that you
engage. You're
actually
not gonna
gave
engage.
it.
You're not doing this shit where you get bullied all day.
You
I got you.
recorded it, right?
You're
You
not gonna
recorded
do
it.
this
Why
shit where
didn't
you
you
get
check the
bullied by
recording?
someone
Why didn't you
online
check
for
the
being a
recording?
retard. I
Why
got
didn't
you.
you check the
You don't want to get
recording
bullied online.
and
That's why
look?
you don't want to do
Why
this
didn't
shit.
you
That's
check the
fine. That's
recording and
completely
look?
fine. You fucking retard. That's fine.
Is he doing
You
like?
talk
Is he
all this
doing
shit in
like
chat. Look
a?
at this fucking bullying session you're getting. Look at this. Look, you look so bad, bro. You look horrible. Oh, I
Are you
experienced this.
done?
Fucking
Still
retard. Get the
talking?
fuck out of
Still,
here. You're fucking
still talking.
embarrassing.
Still talking. Yeah. Wait,
Wait,
Turnz,
what's
was
the
he
issue
doing
with
like?
that?
Is he just doing like a skeptical sort of challenge on
Yeah,
your?
he's just like
Skeptical
trying to
challenge. I
rat.
mean, this guy
He's just
just
saying like,
wait. He was asking
oh,
me.
you
So
can't
wait. So when he
prove
was
your
asking me a series of
experiences.
questions,
Wait,
was
I'm
he
sorry. Did he
analogous to
fucking ask you a
objection testing?
question on? Did he ask you a question, Paulo, or did he ask me a question? Who did he ask?
I don't give a fuck who he asks. I'm gonna be
Yeah, so I
responding
don't give a
regardless of
damn.
who he
All
asks.
right, stop
I don't
talking.
give a damn about you not
Yeah,
giving a
no one
damn.
cares.
There you
No
go,
one cares.
checkmate, buddy.
Stop talking.
I
Yeah,
don't give a damn
no
about you
one,
not
no one
caring.
cares.
There you
Yeah,
go,
no one
checkmate,
cares. Yeah, no one cares.
checkmate, sonny. You
Yeah,
look
no
bad
one
right now.
cares.
You look bad.
How
Oh,
about
he asked you the
how
question,
about the
so you should not
person
respond.
who's
Shut the
asked
fuck
the
up, you fucking
question?
retard.
How about the person
Fucking
who's
virgin.
asked the
Shut the
question?
fuck up, bitch
He
ass
can
boy. You're fucking
answer.
retarded as
He
fuck.
can
He
answer the
got his dick all
question.
up his fucking. He
He
got his
can
dick
answer
all
the
up
You
his
know,
fucking
question.
mouth,
usually
bro.
like
You
when
look
you
bad
ask
right now.
somebody a question, usually the person that you asked should answer, not like the guy you didn't ask. That's usually how it goes.
Usually,
Maybe if he could track the
fuck, I don't care about your fucking
conversation,
nerd ass
he
input,
would
fucking
know
retard.
that Texas actually asked me a question, right? He didn't ask you a question.
You know the Texas asked me a question. You should not respond. Don't give a
Yeah,
fuck.
that's how
Cry
the
about it,
social
bitch.
norms
Wait,
are.
I'm your fucking river. I'm your
Do you
fucking
know
river.
you're having a conversation right now, Apollo?
Do I end up in the conversation right now?
Yeah.
What's your theory of knowledge?
Yeah, how do you know?
I'm asking you a question.
Virtue epistemology.
In virtue of the quality? So your theory of knowledge is the quality?
What the?
Wait, what?
Dude, this guy
I
doesn't
asked
know
you what your theory of knowledge, and you're like, oh, in virtue of the quality? Like, you're stupid. You asked me how do I know I'm having the conversation?
Okay, no. If you didn't like make out what I said, dude, just like maybe like make a better guess, like virtue epistemology.
No, sorry, I don't make a gibber, so try again, retard. tryhard. Next try. Come on.
Are you aware that we're having this conversation? Are you aware of that?
If I'm aware. When you're saying if I'm aware,
Do you believe
if
something
I'm
that's
making a
true?
knowledge claim on this.
No, I'm not claiming the knowledge. I don't want to go down a whole fucking
Okay,
episode of
so I'm
debate.
just gonna make the claim that I'm aware.
So you're aware of that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
How do you know that?
knowledge claim. So why are you going to ask me to prove something or ask me how do I know something?
Yeah, how do you know you're aware? Yeah.
So wait a second. So you're asking me about my knowledge claim or beliefs?
So do you take empirical observations to be knowledge conducive?
So want to answer my question first, or just going to keep on asking me questions?
What
Which one is
was
it?
the question?
The question I asked you was just simply that: are you trying to say, or what you asked me, or when you said to me, ask me a
He
question
doesn't
about
even
my
fucking know
knowledge
the
claims,
question.
are going to then say afterwards
Jesus
that you're going to
Christ.
ask me, how do I know something? That's going to be contradicting the idea that you're not asking me about any knowledge.
That's not a question, that's a statement. Is this dude fucking
You
stupid?
asked
Okay, so here, let me give you a question, right? Because that's just
me
a
is a question,
declarative. That's a
actually. You
declarative.
asking
That's
me
a
to believe something is a
declarative. That's a
question.
declarative.
You asked me,
That's a
how is it
declarative
imperative?
sentence.
You asked
Right?
me,
What the
believe
fuck do you
this.
think a
That's the
question
question.
is?
Are you so you asking me,
No, you didn't
do we
ask,
believe
do you
X?
believe this,
Is
right?
that
You
not the
made a
question?
statement.
So it
You
is not the
made a
question?
statement.
Like, what are you talking about? If you ask me,
You
do we
made a
believe X?
statement, dude.
Do you believe that
And
you're
then
aware of something?
period.
How
What are
is
you
that
talking
not the
about?
question?
You
We're talking
you
about
made
the
a
first question
statement
you
and
asked me
ended
a
in a
couple seconds
period.
ago, you fucking retard.
Okay, so you take empirical observations to be knowledge conducive? Yes or no?
I'm not making any claim about whether I take empirical observations to be knowledge useful.
Okay, if you don't, then you couldn't say that we're actually having this conversation right now.
Why is it logically impossible for me to know that I know something
Wait,
about
when the
me
fuck
having
did
a
I make a
conversation without it
logical?
feeling
When the
empirical?
fuck did I make a logical claim?
You said
I
I
made an
couldn't. That's a
inductive
modal
claim.
claim.
Dude, this guy's a fucking retard.
You said I
Do you think I
couldn't.
have
You
to
said I couldn't.
logically? Wait, do you
You
think?
said I
Wait, do you think I have
couldn't.
to? No,
You said I
wait. Do you
couldn't. That's a
think?
modal verb. So why
No,
is it
wait.
impossible?
Do you think?
Couldn't
No,
implies an inability to do
no,
something.
no,
It's
it doesn't.
impossible. What's the given
No.
modality?
No, okay. It's just gonna be something
Yes, it
like
does.
epistemic
Actually, under
modality.
SCP, that's one of the listed modal verbs, which implies impossibility. You look
Jeez.
stupid.
Yeah, not in all
Yes,
cases, right? Like if
couldn't,
I say like I
can't,
can't,
yes.
if
Yes,
I say I
that's if you
can't,
actually know what the modal
if I
verb is, by
say
the way.
I
Maybe I can do that
can't.
too.
Okay, let's say I say like I can't resist this temptation or something, right?
Look at this
What
trash-ass
modal
garbage analogy
scope?
coming up.
What modal scope do you think that is?
What modal scope I think he used, it depends on...
Like that's just
I would
ordinary.
have
That's just like common
I would have
parlance.
this position to believe that in that specific... Wait, give me again the analogy, just for me to give a specific response.
Do you even know what it
For it.
was? Wait, you started
Yes,
responding.
I'm
You don't even
asking to
fucking know what
re-give
it
it again,
was.
dummy. If I'm asking you to
Wait,
re-give it
so
again,
you
then that means I
started
don't know what it actually
responding. You
was.
don't even fucking know what it is.
He
So maybe
started
just concede.
responding and he didn't even
Can't
know what the
imply. You
example
just started
is.
Dude, this
responding
That's
because you
dude's
said what this
fucking
basically
can't
dogged
shit.
on.
imply.
This
But
dude's a
because you
fucking
added the
idiot.
predicate
He got
after the word
dogged on.
can't, I'm asking to repeat that
You got
predicate
dogged on,
for me to give a
retard.
specific response to the fucking question, you fucking retard. So give me the whole idea again. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, what was my question?
Your question, well, what do you think can't implies in this context? And I'm saying to re-give the context.
Okay, I can't resist this temptation. What does that mean?
You can't resist this temptation.
Yeah, surely
I
it's
think it
just
means
common
under
parlance.
practical... which modal scope I think that would apply to, correct?
Yeah, what the fuck else do you think I'm asking? Like, oh, this
I'm asking.
this
I'm not
guy
saying that
cannot
you're
fucking
not doing
track
this.
at
I'm
all.
asking you a question.
What else do you think I'm asking? Okay, maybe Bu's
I
common
don't think
sense next
anything else.
time.
I'm
Yes,
asking you a
I'm
question,
asking the
retard. Me
modal
asking you
scope.
is just what
Yep,
you're saying does not mean I'm
I'm
thinking anything else,
asking
dummy.
the exact same question that you asked me, which is the modal scope.
Okay, so you could have just said yes instead of just saying, what do you think about it? Okay, so the thing that I think you're referencing in that specific context is a modal scope based on practical limitation.
On practical limitation. Okay, what modal
Yes.
scope would that entail? Practical limitation?
I just
Physical
gave you
modality?
the modal scope.
I don't know what the fuck is practical
The
limitation?
modality based on practical limitations. That's the modal scope.
Yeah, so can you define what that is? What's that look like?
You don't know what the practical limitation is?
Can you define it? You're the one who used it. Like, hopefully you would know.
Wait, I'm using it in the same way it is generally used. There you go.
Yeah, and how is it generally used?
You don't know how it is generally used to talk about practical limitation?
You don't know? I'm just gonna say you don't know that
I'm
atheism
asking you
is
the
true?
question, dummy. Stop trying to be a weasel. Do you know this or not? Yes or no? If you do know, then
Practical modality? I think so, but I'm just asking, like, you're the one who used
Okay,
it.
so
Hopefully
wait a
you would know
second.
how
So
to
you know what
define
practical
it.
modality means? You know what practical limitations mean generally, but yet still you're asking me this question when I quite literally said it is the same
we could be
usage
talking
of the
past
general
each other,
usage.
right? We could be talking past each other.
But you just agreed a while ago that we have a common agreement, which is that our understanding of this is based on the general usage. Right?
Sure, but we could just maybe stipulate something else as being the general usage. So I don't know what you mean. Like, can you just give me
So
a
wait a second. You
definition?
think we
I
could
don't know
just
why
have
you're being
different
difficult.
understanding of what general
Look,
usage is?
do you
You
want to
don't
give
think we
me?
have the
Do you
same
want to?
understanding of what it means for something to be generally used?
No, that's not what I said. I'm saying that we can have two different terms and we can think that they're generally usable, but the generally
Are you saying
usable
that
is
it
just
being
like actually
logically
going to be different.
possible? Are you saying that it being logically possible for us to be speaking past each other automatically means that it is relevant for it to be asking me this clarifying question?
What's the issue, dude? Why are you just a bit? I don't actually think he fucking knows
Do you
what
think
I'm
I'm
getting
finding an
at,
issue
right?
with this,
Yeah,
or do you think
look,
I'm asking you a
turns,
question? Which one is it?
turns.
The
I would
idea
just
is
it's not
it's
really
common
going
parlance,
anywhere. I don't think.
right? It's
Um,
common
Wait, common
parlance to say
parlance?
can.
Don't you think that we could be speaking past each other in every single word you're using right now in language?
Oh my
Do you mean
God.
by can?
Under your view, because it is logically possible for us to be having a different understanding of general usage, that means that it is relevant for you to be asking this question. But I can quite literally
I never
extrapolate
said.
to
Wait,
saying
I
with
never
every single word
stipulated
that you
logical.
say,
No,
I
no,
can
I
just
never
ask you a question
stipulated
about what you mean
logical
by that word,
modality.
because you can have a different understanding of the scholastic usage.
All right, this dude's too fucking stupid. Like, it's not actually tracking.
I'm too
Like,
stupid.
you
I
don't
just
even
cannot
know.
respond to
You
one
don't
of you.
even
That's why you
know.
look stupid.
No, you didn't even know what Texas said was an argument, right? You didn't even
Wait,
fucking
that's assuming that you even gave a not.
remember
Wait,
what
hold
the
on here a
fuck I
second.
said.
You guys said that I did not know what an argument is, or more specifically, you said that I gave it the definition. You agreed the definition was correct. So if I know what the definition of an argument is, and I gave the definition, and you conceded that definition was correct, then that means you indirectly conceded that I do in fact know what an argument is. So you look stupid on
You
that
don't know how
point.
to
You're
apply the
unable to actually give
definition.
me any form of reason
Do
as to
you
why
know
you
what
did
an
in fact give an
applicable?
argument,
Wait,
which is not question begging.
Wait, turns. Can I
You don't know
like
how to apply the definition. That's what I'm getting at.
I
You
think
may
Wait a
like
know the
second.
what.
So now you're
definition,
just
but you don't actually know how to fucking
so
apply it.
firstly, you said I do
But
not know the
if it
concept of an argument.
oh
But
God.
saying I don't know how to apply the concept. That's just hedge and fallacy.
If we
What
could get back
fallacy?
on, if you could be on the
That's a hedge and fallacy. It's kind of like when you
oh
refine the
God.
Wait,
claim
what
to avoid the
fallacy?
contradiction to your original position.
Are you talking about ad hoc? Wait, what fallacy?
I said hedge and
Say-
fallacy. Hedge and fallacy.
The
You
fuck
fucking
is a
idiot.
hedge? Okay, hold on.
A hedge and
Wait,
fallacy. Hedge and fallacy is any fallacy which involves the idea of refining the claim to avoid some implicit contradiction or refutation. That's what a hedge and fallacy is. Thanks for the thank me later
I'm
for the
not seeing
lecture. You suck.
anything on hedge and fallacy. Can you spell that?
Because originally you said I do not know what an argument
Doesn't
is,
actually look
which
like
is
you
you
actually know
criticizing me
what the
for not
fuck
knowing
you're
the
talking
concept,
about.
but now you're
Because I'm
saying to me they
looking
don't know how
at
to
hedge and
apply the
fallacy right
definition or
now.
concept, which is different.
All right, look, you actually fucking like are impossible to
You're
talk
just so
to. Right? You don't
flabbergasted. You're
actually
so stuck to
think
the point
that
where you
an
cannot give any
empirical.
substantive responses, and everything you're just saying is just pure fucking like insults to my actual intelligence
Can you
instead
give
of
an
like an actual
example?
response to my argument.
Yeah, like what?
You're like, what? You said I'm silly. I'm too stupid to talk to.
I just said that it's impossible to talk to you. I never insulted your intelligence.
No, you said yeah, you did in fact say I was silly. In fact, you agreed with the guy in chat originally that I was silly.
No, he said
I'm pretty
this.
sure he did. I'm pretty sure he did. I mean,
Do
I'm not
you
sure, but
know
maybe
him?
you did.
He said, do you know him? I said, yeah. What the fuck?
Oh,
Like,
okay. My bad about that.
that was his
I would
question.
agree. I was
His
definitely wrong about that.
proposition
I
is
thought
he is
I
silly.
thought you were saying in chat that like when you said I'm silly, and then you said yeah. I thought
Where?
like that was what you're saying.
Where did I
Yeah.
say that?
Thought you said that.
I didn't fucking say that, but all right.
Yeah, I'm willing to agree that it's wrong with that. That's fine. I thought you were agreeing with him at that time. That's why I called you out.
Fine. You wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah. So cool. So we can go back to what we were talking about a while ago if you're even interested in continuing that part of the conversation.
I mean, it just seems like you didn't actually track anything I said, right? And then you just start like giving these
I'm
like
pretty
bullshit
certain I tracked
responses.
everything you said, and I can
No,
go
no,
over
because
everything
here's
that's
what I
happening.
got. I gave you an argument about sufficient conditions, and I could deduce the contradiction. And then you said, no, you haven't actually. Wait, you said that there's going to be an issue with that because of the fact that you would have to deduce a contradiction. Then I was like, yes, I already did. And then when you asked me, how do you know you did that? I said it was like done 2 minutes ago. And then you were like, no, that's fucking question begging. That's just like
that
intellectual
question came long
dishonesty.
after. That question came out long after when we were arguing about some recollection clash bullshit. I was saying to you that at first I forgot the specific content of response because we've been going on this meta part for a good while. But at first I was saying that your response or what you said was unresponsive, and then I was going further in depth as to why it did not entail a contradiction. To which you responded by saying I
Why
gave a
doesn't it?
contradiction and you're not tracking. And then that's when we went on to this meta part
Yeah.
of the
So
conversation regarding
what's the
recollection.
response to the argument I gave earlier about sufficient conditions and
I said that I
necessary
don't specifically
sectarianism?
recall the response at this very moment because of the fact that we've been on the meditating for a very long time. But that doesn't mean that I did not recall the response at the said moment when you gave the response, which is what motivated me to make that response.
Okay, so you don't know what it is. That's fine.
Currently, but that doesn't mean I don't know what it is before.
No, I mean my impression is you just didn't know the entire time, right?
That's
Yeah,
your
maybe,
impression.
like,
My
to
impression
avoid the
based off
meta
my own
stuff, just,
self-knowledge
like,
is that
kind
I
of
didn't know what
start
it is
from
firstly, but
the
now I don't
point
know what it is
where
because
we
I've been on
started
this
going
standing for a
into
long
meta.
time.
I'm sorry, what?
Like, to avoid the meta stuff, you could just start over from the point where like it started getting lost.
Yeah, we can just go over it again.
All right, so sufficient condition and necessitarianism is going to entail contradiction, right? 'Cause sufficient condition means that there's going to be an event which is causally dependent upon a different event. Dependence is just going to imply contingency, right? Because the cause could have failed to exist.
Are you saying the sufficient condition requires a causal event, or sorry, it requires that thing be dependent on some causal event?
Wait, what? Say that again?
Are you saying a sufficient condition requires a causal?
You cut out.
Am I still cutting out?
No, you're good now.
Okay,
Hello?
yeah, my bad. Oh yeah, I'm here. I was asking you, are you trying to say that the sufficient condition entails this thing being dependent on something else?
Yeah. Or sufficient cause, yeah.
Well, whether it's like a sufficient condition or cause, if it's something which will actualize the event, and I don't think nothing within that content entails it requires a causal event prior to that thing which is dependent on.
It would, right? That's just going to be trivial. It's going to require the causal event.
No. You're saying that the sufficient condition is something which requires something for its own existence, correct?
No. I just said that it's going to be
Okay, so
something
then,
like the event itself, not the actual cause itself, right?
so yes,
Not
so
the
the event
antecedent.
itself. So you're saying the event itself is a contingent event, or is it something which is necessary? Which one are you saying?
The event is contingent.
Yeah, I don't. Sufficient condition entails the event itself, which is being produced from said sufficient condition being contingent.
You don't think the sufficient... Wait, hold on. Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think a sufficient condition, right, entails the event that it causes to be a contingent one.
Why?
Because
It's
the way
dependent
in
upon
which
the
I'm
sufficient
cashing
condition, right?
yeah,
So it is dependent upon the sufficient condition. Dependence is going to be like, I would say, an analytical equivalent to contingency because it's contingent upon its the
I
antecedent
wouldn't say it's
cause.
analytically equivalent. I think it's going to depend on like the concept the agent is experiencing on the terminology. Because even like if you go on like SCP and other reliable articles and papers on what the sufficient condition is, they all say that the definition of a sufficient condition in itself is ambiguous. Several different definitions and understandings of what it means for something to be a sufficient condition. So this is pretty plausible for it to be the case that we just have different concepts of what a sufficient condition is, which is why you
I
believe
mean, but,
it's analytically entailed, and I don't believe that.
sure. So what was the issue that with the
Well,
analytical
I don't
difference?
even think you even got the chance to give like, an argument, like an actual argument against Nyklatism, or even if you did, which is the necessitarianism objection. As I've said before, it seems to be the case that it is dependent on some conceptual disputes.
Yeah, which I was getting into.
Yeah, but I
Right.
think if there's a conceptual dispute,
Yeah. Okay, wait, so hold on. What was your issue with my argument?
But
A sufficient
Apollo,
condition
so
doesn't
you
entail
know,
some sort of
Apollo,
dependence and
are
dependence.
you a full-on Neoplatonist, or what are you?
not like I would say I believe in the essential, like some of the essential aspects of Neoplatonism. Yeah, but I don't believe in absolute divine simplicity. Like I think there's some people who take it like to a huge stretch, which makes it so
Why
fucking
would you?
paradoxical.
I should actually. This is a long discussion. I'll talk to you after you talk to
Yeah.
terms. Go on.
Okay, so what was your objection to my claim? Because it just sounds like you said you define it differently, but then you
Just
didn't actually like bring your definition to the table.
you give a
You
definition
agree with my
will
definition.
analyze the event.
Yeah, and I was willing to grant that definition, right? And I used
Yeah,
that
but
definition.
something
I
which
just
will
used my
actualize
argument,
something
right?
does it entail the event itself being contingent goods, right?
Something actualizing. Yeah, it would, right? Because it's contingent. It's gonna have like dependence, right? And a dependence
When
relationship,
you're
let's say, is
this
existential
goes back to what we were
contingency.
talking about previously. Because when we were talking about the contingency, we were talking about something which in some world is possible. It's possibility is not the same as the dependence relation. For example, we can, I'm not going to go into this because this is going to be more controversial. But I mean, again, you're talking about different things. On your end, you're talking about contingency so far as something being dependent on something else. In mine, it's talking about contingency in so far it is true in some possible world, or it is actual in some
Yeah,
possible world.
no, I accept your definition of contingency, right? I'm not trying to like equivocate between the terms. I'm just saying that a dependent relationship implies that it's true in some worlds, false in others. Getting at.
Do you,
That's going to be
when
an
we talked about this last time, I'm pretty certain you agreed it's not logically implied, right?
what logic? No, I mean, what like if there's
Yes,
a
not
contradiction in
entail. It
negation?
doesn't entail. Like you said, like
It's a
word.
priori. That's
Do you think there's a contradiction in the same that there's a necessary being which has a cause?
which has a cause.
Yeah.
Wait, so there's gonna be a time when it didn't exist?
No, it could be the case that they exist in all times it exists, right? But in all times its cause depends on some other causal antecedent.
Right, but you
You could
take
be
the view
eternal,
that
yet
time exists, right?
turns. You could be eternal, yet be
Wait, this is not
causative.
even relevant. Like whether or not time exists, the point of the matter is you asked me, is it the case that when I'm saying that it is causally dependent, that implies or that it's just me saying that at some point in time it does not exist? I'm saying no. What the matter is saying here is that when I say this causally dependent, it could be the case that there's no point in time at which it does not exist, but during its existence, right, or throughout its existence, it's dependent on something else, but not in terms.
Exactly. So
How
when
wait,
we're
how
dependent
could it be
relation,
dependent on something else but necessary? I don't get that.
I'm asking you why the case that something be depends on something else until be necessary. So answer the question.
No, that's just shifting the burden. Like, why would that be necessary?
No, it is not. The burden here is on you.
Yeah?
You said to me that it is
No,
logically
no,
implied
no.
from something being wait, hold on. You said that it is logically implied from something being dependent on something else that it is contingent. So then I presented this hypothetical case scenario to ask you to draw out the contradiction in the necessary being depends on something else.
But when I say that's necessarily the case, right? I just said that it's going to be trivial in virtue of sufficient conditions.
No, because we agree that the definitions are disparate, and we try to, or then you try to present a concept.
And that wouldn't even matter,
Because
right?
of
Because
definitional
you
disagreement.
agree. No, that hinges on something like time not existing in that theory, right? Because there's not going to be a time in which the antecedent condition caused the other one, right? But obviously you hold to time, so that's just a false analogy.
Wait, no, it isn't, because this does not require the existence of a temporal world. It could be the case that the example given is just something reflective of some causal relation in a non-temporal world. Unless you believe that temporal causation is necessary, which is going to be something which is obviously debunked.
Yeah, it could be, but like the issue is just going to be that you believe in a temporal
That means
world,
it's not
right?
detailed. My belief is
Right,
a
but you believe in
contingent
a
one, right?
temporal
You agree that
world?
the belief. Wait, so if you wait, hold on. One can present a hypothetical case scenario which is inconsistent with their belief about the actual world. Doesn't devalue the hypothetical case scenario. So even if my belief conflicts with the hypothetical case scenario, that doesn't change the fact
it
that the
deflects with the
hypothetical
actual
case scenario
world.
holds some level of validity.
If it conflicts with the actual world, like why would we care? Like we want to get the actual world, right?
You think the point of a hypothetical case scenario is for it to reflect everything which is going on in the actual world?
Yeah, the idea is okay. No, obviously not. But the idea is if there's something
Then that's
substantial.
relevant, right?
Wait, no. Do you want a response? The idea is if there's something substantial that's going to be true of the actual world that would differentiate this hypothetical case scenario, then the hypothetical case scenario is not actually going to be a true analogy.
Well, the analogy, when you say true, or true in the sense
like here,
where
no. You've been asking me, you've been asking me a bunch of questions, right? I'm gonna ask you some questions now, okay? So do you think?
No. Respond to your case before you ask your question. Don't try to run away. Don't try to run away. Don't try to run away.
I didn't ask you a question.
You said it's not going to be a true analogy.
I didn't ask you a question.
The analogy is not supposed to be true theft.
The what? Say it again.
The analogy is not something which is true theft. It's a question. It's me saying, under this condition,
true or
would it
false?
be entailed at X? That's not a true theft statement.
Yeah, it is. Because what do you think true theft means?
A true theft statement is just anything which can be true or false. If it is a question, or if it is question based, that means it's not true theft. There you go.
If it's question based, that means that it could be the case, right?
If it is question based, then that means
wait. What do you think hypothetical means, right? It could be the case.
I think
that's why we want to get a
which is imaginary.
use.
Hypothetical imaginary.
Yeah. And okay, so why would we care about imaginary stuff, right? We want to get at stuff that could be the case.
You think that's but you said a while ago that hypothetical analogies can hold credibility regardless of them being hypothetical.
Yeah, I said that they can hold credibility, yeah.
So if they can hold credibility, then you appeal into their imaginary status does not in any way.
When did wait, hold on, I didn't know that you were defining hypothetical as imaginary, right? So that's not going to be a corollary of what I said.
Wait a second. So wait, you don't think I was defining it that way? I think you're just like being dishonest right now, right?
No, I thought you were defining hypothetical as like it's possibly the case that there is something dependent but necessary, right? Possible.
Wait, are you trying to wait a second. It's not you think that my hypothetical analogy assumes it being possible, or is it just trying to put forward this idea and asking you if it is impossible? Which one is it?
So you're saying that if it's not impossible, it's possible then, right? Because that's a true dichotomy.
No, I'm not even making a claim about its nature of a modality.
Okay, is it impossible?
Okay, this is the case. Is it impossible?
possible? Is that
I never made
is that
I never made a
worldview?
conditional
Is
statement
the
based on the
worldview
antecedent to be
is the
impossible.
worldview you gave me, where there's
Wait, now
something
you're just tweaking
necessary,
now you're just tweaking
where
the
there's
analogy I've given because you
something,
cannot give a
where there's
response.
something
You cannot give a
necessary
response.
but
You're running away.
dependent.
Buddy,
Wait,
you're running away
is
and
the
it does not
worldview
look good for you.
possible?
Calm down, buddy. Calm down,
Is the
okay? So this is
worldview
the case.
possible?
I never made a claim about
Look,
it
if
being
you just keep
possible,
on
nor was my
interrupting,
conditional based on this.
I'm done, dude. If you're
I'm
just
gonna
gonna keep
interrupt you because
interrupting.
you're just still a bit strawmanning my position because you cannot give a response. You're running away because you're getting slammed right now. Okay? So I'm
No,
saying
not at all.
that
Right.
my
So
analogy was not based on any condition about it being
is the
possible.
analogy possible? Is the analogy possible? Is it possible?
I have a suspension of judgment on the matter. And even if I believe it is possible, it's not something which is
Okay,
required for the
okay,
analogy
so
to
it's
have any
not
substantial
actually
relation.
something that's pertainable. Like, why would we give a shit about
Why
a
do you think
non-possible
that
situation?
something has to be, wait, on this, like, why do you think I have to have a belief in this possibility nature for me to present the analogy, which is to basically ask you if it is impossible, which is your burden?
Right. You asked me, is it possible or impossible? So obviously, I'm gonna assume you probably take a view on that, right? Is it possible or impossible? I'm just asking.
Asking the question does not mean I have a view on it. Firstly,
Okay,
that's
so
just going to be wrong.
no,
And
you would
secondly,
hold to the view.
you're not even giving me the
You
argument for why
would
it's impossible,
hold
so I'm just going to
to
take your
the
concession on
view.
this.
Yeah, all right, you would hold to the view that that's impossible, right? Because that's a different modality than this one, and you accept
You
the
still
modal.
haven't proven that it
But
depends
if
relation
you
implies
accept
contingency. You're
that
just
it's
running away.
impossible, if you accept that it's impossible, then my
I
sufficient
never accepted
conditions
it being
argument goes
impossible.
through,
I never
and you
accepted it being
don't have
impossible,
a
and I said
fucking
to you.
hypothetical.
Firstly,
You don't
retard.
have a
Firstly, retard.
hypothetical
I never
claim.
accepted
You don't
it
have a
being
hypothetical
impossible.
claim.
I said to you that the acceptance of it being possible is not relevant, right? Because the burden is on you to demonstrate why this case, if possible or impossible, would actually be impossible. That was my fucking position.
Oh, I said that it's possible, right? And you said
That means you
that
concede that you can
it
have a
doesn't matter.
fucking.
No,
Wait, are
it
you saying
doesn't
it's
matter. It
impossible?
doesn't matter.
Are you
It
saying it's
doesn't matter.
possible? Are you saying it's possible?
What the fuck? It's not a concession, right? I said that it's
Wait,
possible.
are you saying that it's possible? Yes or no?
I just said that it is. What the fuck? Look,
So wait, it is possible for
I'm
there
not
to be a
gonna play this
necessary means of
game.
being
I'm not gonna
found.
play this game of steamrolling, right? So under your
Disagree with my
worldview,
position, so we
under
can
your
see this.
worldview, it's impossible, right?
No, that is your worldview. You said that it is
No, under your
required
so it's
for a
possible.
necessary
Okay,
means
you
to be
fucking
found.
fucked up. All right, you don't actually believe in the modal collapse. You said that
Holy
it's not
shit,
impossible. That means that it's possible. That means that it's contingent. If it's contingent, then you don't actually accept the modal collapse. You don't actually accept the modal collapse because you said that it's not impossible, which means that it's possible.
Wait, hold on a second.
Right, you
That
fucking
just
conceded. Good job.
against my view because what you're saying is that if I just disagree with the view that the acceptance of a sufficient condition entails a falsity of a necessitarianism, that means that you don't accept the modal collapse. But that assumes the conclusion, which is that a modal collapse acceptance is based on this presupposition, which I disagreed with in the first place. That's going to be question begging.
What presupposition? What presupposition?
The sufficient condition. We've already talked about this. You're just question begging right now.
No, I'm not, right? You agreed with me that it's not impossible. If the hypothetical scenario is not impossible, that means that it's possible, right? Because that's a true dichotomy. If it's possible, that means that it's going to be something
Wait, hold on there a second.
that means that the world could have been otherwise. If the world could have been otherwise, that means that the modal collapse is false, trivial.
Wait, what did you say was? Wait, what did what said was possible?
Which does not respond to my original objection, which is based on your inability and your lack of intelligence to produce any form of substantive response to the idea that it is a contradiction to have a sufficient condition and necessitarianism.
Yeah, I already told you why it would be a contradiction for you.
I mean, this is recorded, right? So we can just save the recording. I'm pretty sure not.
No. So your claim, all right? I asked you, is it impossible? You said it. No, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. If it's not impossible, okay.
Wait, my phone battery is gonna die. Just press save.
Do you have a response? Because you haven't been responding. You just keep on going back to the sufficient conditions and I didn't derive a contradiction, but I did, right? But in any case, I'm talking about a specific scenario that you brought up, right? This would be a contradiction in your own worldview, right? I think that probably it's possible that there's something necessary dependent if you take away temporality, but I don't think, first of all, anyone wants to fucking do that. And my examples weren't on atemporal events; they were on temporal events, like for instance, us having this conversation or something.
Wait, you're saying the issue is that whether or not it's possible for something to be necessary and dependent?
Okay, so here, let me see if you agree with this, Mason. Okay, so I asked him, he gave me this weird scenario, right, where there's something dependent but necessary. And I said, yeah, that's possible if you take away time, right? Because something that's necessary would have to always exist, right? It's not going to be any time when it fails to exist. So if that's the case, then then yeah, if you take away time, then yeah, that's possible. But obviously in my scenarios, I wasn't taking away time, so it didn't even matter. But even if I grant that, then I asked him, okay, do you think that would be possible? He fucked up and he said, yes, it's not impossible. That means that it's possible, right? That's a true dichotomy. And then he said that and then I said, if it's possible, then that means that the world could have been otherwise. If the world could have been otherwise, then that just fucking means that the modal collapse is false, trivially. So he lost, dude. Like, he conceded.
Oh.
You don't agree?
Well, it depends. If it's like, for example, if it's only true that the modal collapse would be false if P is possible and not P is possible. But if only P is possible, it's actually not an issue.
If P is possible and not possible, why is that? Because modal collapse wants to say everything's necessary.
Yeah, the definition of contingent, at least I take it, is to be possibly P and possibly not P. So if only